right, let's try this again. So again, I just want to make sure everybody understands the particulars about dropping homework now. So I am going to try again to connect to the server. And here I am. So again, look up at my screen to see where I'm at. In the photography partition, you click on that. You guys have already done this. You can go here right now just so that because you're going to drop homework for today as well. Into class projects, into the Engelhard folder. And there are 2 drop boxes now for retouching. There is Dropbox Retouching 01. That is you guys. This is the first class. If you look at the section at the head of our Canvas page, it'll have, again, this file name, the retouching course number, and it's listed as 01. The 02 version is actually for the Thursday class, so you do not want to put your files in there. But if you click on this and open it up, you will see that what's been added to this right now is a week 3 turn-in. Everybody gets confused about this stuff. Do not put any of your files into the turn-in folders. These are ones that I build. So for instance, today is week 4, and the files that you turn in today will go in a folder called week 4 turn-in. It just keeps things separate for me. So all you have to do is just drop it into the Dropbox, the first level, the top level, like exactly what these people have done right here. That's exactly what I want you to do. If a week 4 or 5 or whatever weeks exist, do not put it into that, or a good chance I won't find it. So again, simply drop it into the parent folder right here. Don't worry about any of the week folders here. That's the work that I do. Are we good about that? Any questions about that? Okay. I want to take a look at some of the homework again that did get turned in. So I'm going to start with one of the biggest problems that happens in this, and I think it's in this one. Hang on one second, and I will tell you. Nope. Well, I'm going to show it to you in the dodge and burn version then, so we can take a look at it there as well. So let me look at a different one. So I'm going to show you the version that I think is correct. So if we take a look at this is the DNG right here. So this is what ICO made for the DNG. We're going to take a look at that. And you can see that this part has worked out well. So if you take a look at this drop-down menu right here, you can see that I do have the custom profile in here. What ended up happening with the number view is that the assignment was to make 2 different profiles. One was for what was called shot 02, and the other was for shot 03. This was part of shot 03. And you can see she actually made this profile. It's labeled as shot 03. So it is the correct profile, and it is here in her Photoshop file. So this part has been done correctly. You can also notice that there is a custom white balance. So I know she also did the white balancing here. So that part worked out well, but that's still not what I'm looking for. So, oh, that was the DNG. Now we're going to actually take a look at the Photoshop file. So that was the DNG that ICO made, but this is now the Photoshop file. And if we take a look at that and double click on the smart object to go into it, you can see that there's this warning box right next to the profile. That means the profile was not embedded in this. So on ICO's machine, on her computer right now, that's not a problem because the profile that she made is actually in the camera profile folder on her computer. So it's there. She doesn't see this warning. But when she sends me the file, I don't have her profile on my computer. So that's why you get this warning. So not most of you, but half of you, ran into this problem. So the trick to it is, what happened, I'm fairly certain, I'm going to close out of this, was she actually created a DNG that has got the correct profile in it. It's this DNG right here. If you then start your process, if she started from here instead of the CR2 file, she would be fine, because this would then have the embedded profile in it, just like we saw. But my guess is she went back and opened up the original CR2 file to create this, and then she could add the custom DNG profile because it is on her computer, but that does not embed it into this Photoshop file. That leaves it on the computer. It's not embedded. So instead, if she had started with this DNG right here, and so I'll show you what this. If this was the starting off point right here, it does have the DNG, the profile is embedded in it. And so that now when we actually make a Photoshop file out of this, it will actually show up in the Photoshop file for this point on. Does that make sense, everybody, what's going on? So for me, what I do when I go in to check these things, for the original part of the assignment, it was to simply take a look at them and see, do you have the correct profile? Do you have from shot number 1, number 2, or number 2, shot 2 or 3, relatively speaking, embedded in it? And did you end up with a custom white balance? If this white balance part right here says as shot, then I know you have not white balanced this. This is just Photoshop's guess at what the white balance of this should actually be. So that's how I graded that part of it. In terms of doing the rest of the assignment, we're actually going to do that in class right now, collectively together, because I want to make sure that everybody understands this process. So we are going to do that right now from the start. So I need everybody to fire up Photoshop, number 1, and then I need you to navigate to the session files for this class, for week number 2. That's where the assignment is. So let me get there really quickly. And again, the assignment, it's in the assignment folder. And we're going to do, it's the setup for that shot number 3. So we've got 2 folders in here. We are going to select the folder that ends in _03. Click on that, open up the capture folder, and inside this, you should have 2 CR2 files. I've also got a DNG in mine right here. I'm going to throw that DNG away. If you have anything more than 2 raw files, 2 CR2 files in your folder right now, throw everything away except for the 2 CR2 files, just so that we don't get confused about this. Because we're not only going to build profile for this, we're also going to actually develop this file in Camera Raw. We're going to take this all the way from the beginning to the end, and you'll see how quickly the process can actually go. So the first thing that we need to do is then create a blank DNG, a DNG from scratch that we know what's actually embedded in it. So if you open up the very first file, the one that's frame 001, that's the one that has the color card in it. So that's the one I want to use. So open this up into Photoshop. It'll come into Camera Raw. And all we want to do is make a DNG out of this. It doesn't really matter what settings we put in here. None of that part matters. This is just to use to build the custom profile. So to do that, come up to the little square at the very top right-hand side. It's got the arrow pointing in it, and click on that. And again, if you haven't changed anything in here, you will see that what you're going to do should be saved in the same location. If yours isn't, click on the drop-down menu and select that. You can leave the document name exactly as it is. It's what we want. And then when you pick the .dng file extension down here, that's what tells this dialog box what type of file you want to create. And then just hit save. Now this thing has done everything it needed to do. So I'm going to hit cancel out of this. We don't need that anymore. Then you need to go to your applications folder. So, and this is for Windows as well as Mac. In your application folder, you are looking for the Color Checker Camera Calibration app. They have a slightly different name for that for Windows, but it's extremely close to this. It might be identical, but that's the one we're looking for. You want to launch that, so I'm going to simply double click on mine to launch it. And now once I have the screen up, again, if you can see the file, the DNG that we just created for that, the thing that we just created, you can drag and drop it onto this. If it's buried too deep in Windows and whatever, you can go up to the File menu and come down to click on Add Image. But I'm simply going to go find that guy. And here, here, and here. So this is the DNG right here that we just made to do this with. So I'm going to click and drag that onto the screen and let go. It should find the image. If it doesn't find the image, you can use the tools on the upper right-hand part to navigate around your image and to also reshape this green grid that gets dropped on top of the color card. In this case, we don't need to worry about it. The software finds it, and so we're good to go. But before I actually create this profile, I want to go back and copy the name of the shoot that I did this with. So this is where some people maybe got tripped up. So I'm going to click on the raw file name and then hit the enter or the return key, which will select just the name. If you can click and drag across yours, however you select names. I just want to, you can actually, if you can remember this name, you can actually just retype it in for the name of the profile. I'm not going to remember it. So I also don't need the frame number, so I'm going to just click on the frame number. All I want is this 20100-702_CAR_fashion_03. That is the shooting that all of these files were in. So I'm going to copy this name, Command C, so that when I use the color checker to make it, I'm going to create the profile now. I just need to paste that name in so that my color profile has the exact same name as the shooting. So I'm going to hit Create Profile. It's going to say, what do you want to call it? And this is where I want to actually name it. I want to give it that name. So Command V to paste that. If you have trouble pasting in here, older versions of this software, it got really hard. It wouldn't let you paste stuff in. So what you can do, I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. What you could do instead is you can hit the delete key here. And then if you use your control key or a mouse, right click on a mouse or a two-finger swipe on a Macintosh trackpad, you will get a drop-down menu that looks like this, and you can just do paste, and it will put it in. You need to make sure that you do have that .dcp extension that stands for Digital Custom Profile. So anyway, this is ready to go. You can see it's going into our camera profile folder, and I'm going to go ahead and simply click Save. And it's going to say, do you want to use that DNG, because I'd missed the period, and I'm going to say, yes, I do. And file name is invalid, so I'm going to try this again. Create profile. Why on earth is that a problem?
It's on the left side.
Say what?
It's on the left side. It starts with a period.
Oh, thank you. And save. I've already got one there, but I'm going to replace it with this one. And it says it's been created. Life's great. You can quit this program now. It's done all the work you needed it to do. And you can now see I've got this DNG that sits down here. The problem is this DNG already has an embedded profile in it that I cannot change. I mean, I can open this up, and if I was going to reprocess this file, I could then change it for the reprocess, but I can never change it for this DNG. The one that existed when we made it is the one that's embedded in it. So you want to throw this DNG away. It's done all its work. You cannot use that as the start. And instead, now I'm going to select both of the CR2 files. Don't worry, I'm going to make another DNG profile right now. I'm going to select both of these. Actually, you don't even need to select both of them. Let's just go back to the one that's got the color card in it. So we'll go ahead and launch that. So again, Control-click and open this in Photoshop. It'll open up and now we are going to use that profile to build a new DNG that will be our starting point for this. I do not want to use the CR2 file because you cannot embed a profile in that, but you can in a brand new DNG, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to click on the browse. So if you come down to the profile selection that's right under the histogram, click on the icon, the group of icons that are on the right hand side to open up the browser. Click on the drop down little triangle to open up your profiles part. And then we need to look for this profile that I actually just made. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's definitely not that one. Sorry, I'm just checking out what all of these are. It's not that one. It isn't that one. It's not that one. It's got to be this one. Yeah, it's this top one right here. So I'm going to click on that, and then I can click on the back word right underneath the histogram to go back. And if you click and hold this drop down menu, you can see it's actually put in one called 02, and that's not correct. I'm looking for version called 03 in this. So I'm going to go back to my browser, and I'm going to check the next one over and click on that, and then hit the back arrow and click on the drop down menu. And this is the correct one because this is shooting 03. The other girl that you worked on that was more the mid-length shot, that was the 02 shooting, and that would be and the profiles, the 02s that we were just looking would be the one that you would want to use for that. So at any rate, now that I've got this done, I create a new DNG. Oh wait, I want to go ahead and white balance as well. So click on the eyedropper under color, and then come over. I'm going to zoom in on my card and make sure you hit the area that's right here, the gray that's right here. Now, a quick trick, again, something to write down because you won't see this hardly anywhere. When we click on this, it's just going to select a single pixel. A lot of people feel like you get a better version of this if you actually click and drag out. You can see I've clicked and held down the white balance tool to select an area of this gray. That will actually average everything that's inside that little set of marching ants. And so if your color card has a spot on it or something else that you're not aware of, you don't see, whatever, this is probably a better method to do it. And let go. And so now you can see I've got a custom white balance right here, and I've got my custom profile is in this. And now when I click on the drop down, the little square at the top right hand side with the arrow to create a DNG of this, this will now have, it will have an embedded profile, and it will also have my color correction, will also, my white balancing here will also be embedded in that as well. You can hit cancel on this, it's done all its work, and if you go back now and you actually see there's a DNG in here of that file. Now, this DNG is ultimately where I want to start on this. I didn't make one for this other version right here, and so that's something we should do now. I'm going to do it for both. So I'm going to get rid of this DNG. Sorry, this is a little confusing. The DNG thing is perfect, but I want to go ahead and build a DNG that's actually got all of those corrections in it, but doesn't have the card in it. So again, I'm going to get rid of this one right now, the DNG that I just made. I'm going to select both of these CR2 files now at the same time. I'm going to open both into Photoshop at the same time. And I'm going to go through the same thing I just did again. With the one that's got the color target in it, I'm going to click on the drop-down menu. I'm going to open up Profiles. I'm going to select the correct one. I'm going to hit the back key, click on the drop-down to make sure it is the correct one. Mine is, it's the 03 one. I'm going to click on my white balance tool. I'm going to zoom in to the color card, click and drag across the square that's right next to the red. Make sure you do not hit any of those borders. If you hit one of the borders, you'll screw this up. So just an area that's on the inside. It is now color balanced. And then to actually use that for my other image, come up to the thumbnails. Yes? Is yours opening in two separate windows?
Yeah. So I wasn't able to do like how you have the changes if they're both.
Right, so let's try this again. So they're both selected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so control click on this, or command, yeah, one of your, try control. You just need to get your drop down menu on these two, so click on those. And then click on your trackpad. So, or no, you don't want, well, I have no idea why you would select select that. I don't really know what that's about. So wait, so what we're trying to do, select them both again. Click on one, hold down the shift key and select the other one. And then you need, whatever your right arrow is, your right drop down is. You keep hitting those boxes at the top, just hover over the images. Oh, sorry, and I'm not touching your screen.
You saying shift first?
Click one, hold down the shift key and just click the other one. Good, and now again, for me it's control click, but yours is actually might be, however you get a right click on this. So try your alt key, and then keep holding it down, and then just click on one of those files. And that's not it, because you'll get a drop down menu. So let go of that. Try the key that's right next to it. Whatever that key is called. Hold that one. Yeah, hold it down. Click on one of those files in the middle of the file, not on those check marks. That's okay. Nope, that's not it. So hit cancel out of here. I don't know what that's supposed to be doing. Then your control key. That's what it is on the Mac. Hold down the control key and click on that file. I don't know how you get right click down. Well, anyway, so hold down the shift key and select them both. No, let go of the shift key. Click outside of this, you don't want any of that selected. Click on one file. Just one. Don't hold down the shift key, just one file. Now hold down the shift key and click the second one. And then drag both of those to the little Photoshop icon down at the very bottom. And let go. Try that again. Go back into here. Click and drag down to the Photoshop guy. It's saying we can't do that. I doubt that will work. Then I would be a liar. There you go. The increase and yeah. Okay. All right. So I want to now apply the custom profile and the custom color, white balance to this image that I'm actually working on, the image that I really want to work on. So come up to the little three, if you hover over the thumbnail at the top right hand corner, you'll get three little dots. Click on that. You want to do a select all, and you'll see it puts a lighter gray border around the image that we want to work on. Then back up to the same little three dots in the thumbnail that has the card in it. Click on it again, and we're going to come down and we're going to do sync settings. And you can leave it at its default, because the only thing that we have done is we've added a custom profile. You can see it sitting right here. And if we open up color, you can also see that we did a custom white balance in here. So go ahead and say okay to that. And now all of those things have been applied to this image. So now I'm going to select the other thumbnail that does not have the card in it. You'll see that there's actually the custom profile is in it. So is the custom color white balance is in it. We're going to make a DNG of this. So click on this, because again, right now we're working with the CR2 file. This will work as long as you stay on your computer where we made this custom profile, but if you send it to me and I open it, I do not have that. So that's why I want to create a DNG of this. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the drop down, the little square with the arrow pointing down. I'm going to save this as a new DNG. I'm going to cancel out of here. I don't want to do any of that work on the CR2 files. What I want to do is actually start the process now with this DNG that has the embedded profile as well as the custom white balance already built into it. So if you double click on that to open this, oh shoot. Don't double click on that because mine will open in the wrong version of Photoshop. Control click on this and open this just with a regular version of Photoshop. And now you can see the custom profile is in there as well as the custom white balance is in here. So, does everybody have this? Are we good on this part? Because you're not going to be able to do the rest of the whole next part of this without it. Again, this isn't your homework, so hopefully you're staying up with me. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want to see how the processing in this part actually went. Now, if you measured the color card that we just saw that was actually opened, the white patch on that color card was measuring between 245 and 250. So I know that the exposure part on this is correct. What I don't know about this is so that's highlight detail. I know that that part's where I want that. But I now need to go and check for the shadow detail. So I'm going to zoom into the area where her hair is actually touching her arm, that shoulder. You need to zoom into this area here really quickly. I've got a shadow warning on mine right now. If you take a look at your histogram up at the very top, there's a little square on the top left-hand side of the histogram. If you click on that, it will turn on, and anywhere you see that's blue on your image is actually indicating a place where the image is set to 0. So that's 0 black. It's extremely dark. There's no detail in there that wouldn't print at all. You can do the same thing for the highlight detail. If you click on this, it will actually flag anything that's clipping in your highlights, like the very top of this girl's head right here. You can see this area is actually blowing out to it's too hot. You won't get any detail printed in there. You can see my histogram is reading 255s all the way across the board. That is page white. So I'm not going to worry about that part right now. I'm going to turn those warnings off. I do want to go after, though, this area down in here to really set up my shadow part. So I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit more so that you guys can actually, I just want to make sure everybody sees what I'm looking at. So I'm in around 200%. So I'm going to hover over this area that's sort of like right underneath her hair. It's on the front side. You can see that there's actually detail in it. And you can also see my histogram in this area. So it's right sort of like next to that seam, the stitching in there. That area in there, I'm reading 30s, low 30s and high 20s. So again, my target for shadow detail is mid 20s. Remember when we put that print up on the board, we all agreed, yep, around 25 to 28, somewhere in there. That's where you sort of like want to be in this. So right now I can take a look at this and say, well, that's going to print in full detail. I'm going to look at this one wrinkle that's actually in her arm, because I think that should probably be visible as well in terms of my shadow detail. And you can see I am right in the mid 20s. So the exposure on this thing is perfect. The white point is perfect. The black point is actually perfect in here for my shadow detail. We're going to check out one other thing I want everybody to actually take a look at. And so you need to actually come up to her face. This is another great trick for checking exposure when you're shooting tethered. Sometimes it's very hard to get a color card in the correct place. So really good digital text will use this trick that I'm going to show you right now. Again, you should be writing this down, because we're also going to talk about the proper color in just a second. So what I'm looking for here, and it's very, very, very specific, but what I'm looking for here is you want to find a highlight on Caucasian skin. This doesn't work on any other skin tone or any other skin color, so it's just a fluke that it works on this. But anyway, if you the person that you're shooting, or you're not even shooting a person, if you have anyone on your crew that has actually got Caucasian skin, you can temporarily put them into your set to do this measurement. But what I'm looking for is a highlight on her skin, and you can actually see there's a highlight on the bridge of her nose right here. If you hover over that highlight on her nose, you can then get a readout in your histogram of the RGB values of this. What you are looking for is the red channel only. You want that to be somewhere between 225 and 245. If it's above 245, you are too blown out. It will clip. If it's under 225, you are too dark. You can see in my case right now, mine's reading 224. So, and if I moved around in here just a little bit, I might be able to hit a 225 or a 223. I'm close enough that I'm not going to try to change my exposure in here right now. I mean, I could try right now if I click on the exposure and bring it up 1/10 of a stop, not my contrast, but my exposure, like a 0.5, and then hover over that spot again. You can see I'm at a 225 right now. So I'm 5/100ths of a stop off on my exposure. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, for me, I actually like to have my skin tones. My more normal is much closer to a 235. It's right in the middle of that range, but I like my skin tones to be a little bit more blown out, especially if you're thinking about doing fashion and beauty. The advantage of blowing something out a little bit more is that you lighten up all the wrinkles, you lighten up the texture, you lighten up all of those things. You don't get rid of it, but you lighten it up. So the sense of texture or that kind of stuff is diminished. So we could try it here. If I'm going to do some heavy work here though, what I would do is I would actually put a color sampler point on that area so that I don't have to keep going back and forth. To do that, if you look at the far right hand side of the of the Adobe Camera Raw, down at the very bottom, there's four icons that are at the very bottom. The third one down from the top is actually the color sampler tool. If you click on that, you can then come over and actually drop a point down on that highlight part right on the bridge of her nose. It will give you a static readout up at the very top. Now you can actually take your exposure and you can actually crank this over till it reads 235. So in my case, I'm adding a 4/10 of a stop to this. Now I'm blowing out the hair more, but I'm okay with that because I'm actually going to reprocess this file to take care of that problem. I am going to though kick all the way back out and see what I think about the brightness of this image and what it really did. If you zoom into that same area again, the area that's down where I'm looking for shadow detail, and I'm looking down in this part down in here, now I'm feeling actually even a little bit better about what's going on in the shadow detail down in here, because now I'm in the sort of mid to high 20s in here. So I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable about that part as well. I'm going to click fit to drop back out again. So this is where I would actually start. This for me is the best base that I can do on here. It's been color corrected with a profile. It's been white balanced using a color card. I've actually set my points now in terms of how bright I want her skin tone to be and where I want the shadow point to actually be on here. So this is now where I'm going to click and open my object up. So you need to make sure that this says open object, not just open. If it does not say open object, you need to let me know, because that means you've got something set up wrong in the way Camera Raw is working. We need the whole trick to this is to use smart objects to be doing this with. So I'm going to click on this to go ahead and open that part up, and this is the beginning of what I would then do. So then we have decisions to make. And typically, people make decisions not based on looking at this thing visually or what the intent of this is. People make all sorts of decisions on this largely based on what they think is, well, this is what most people do. Most people would look at this image and they would say, okay, if I'm going to dodge and burn this, I'm going to bring the wall back down. The wall that's on the on this top backside right in here, this is actually too hot in here. And if you hover over it, you can see it actually is a little bit too hot because it's reading a 252. I don't have really, I'm really worrying about detail printing in this, so I'd probably want to pull that part back just a little bit. However, is this an image about buildings or is this image about this figure? And for me, it's an image about the figure. So what most people do is flatten their image out. They look at these highlight areas right here and they say, I'm going to make them darker. And then they look at the really dark areas and they say, I'm going to make them lighter. Everything is being pushed towards middle gray. That is how you flatten your image out. That's not what I want to do. For me, I'm looking at this thing pictorially, and so for me, what I really want to do is I want to lighten up the background. I want this girl to separate from the background. If you bring the background down, which a lot of you were doing in your second layer, then what ends up happening is that you end up bringing the whole background so it's closer to her skin, closer to the tones of her. And in that, they become one. You're not separating these two. So for me, it's more about isolating this girl. It's more about, because again, it's about the fashion, but that is just the intent of this. So you need to make those decisions based on what you're ultimately trying to achieve visually, not on this sort of like pre-canned idea that, well, yeah, all the white in here is too blown out. I need to bring that down. If, for instance, if I hover over the bag that's down here in the bottom, it's reading 235s. This has got more than enough detail in it. This area up here along the edge part is just a little bit hot, but I don't think the background in this area down in here is hot enough. So I'm going to actually change all of this right now. So to fix all of this, I'm going to make a new copy. This is a good base for me to start with. To make a new copy of this, again, you cannot duplicate the layer by simply dragging it down to the little square or hitting Command J. That ends up making a second reference to the one smart object that's in here. I need to make a completely separate set of raw data. So the way you do that is up to the layer menu. menu, down to Smart Objects, over to New Layers, New Smart Object via Copy. That's what you want to do. This is now separate from the rest of them. I'm going to double click on this one to go back in. And again, I want to lighten up this whole area that's back behind her. That's what I'm going to go for in doing this. So to do that, I'm just going to grab my exposure slider and I'm going to whack it over till it gets really light. I'm not worried about her. I'm not worried about the wall. I'm just trying to get this window area to lift up. So now that I've got the window area to lift up, I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. Now this is really bright. I only wanted it for the window that's in the back. I didn't want it to affect her, and I didn't want it to affect the white wall that's already too blown out. So I'm going to turn off the eyeball for this. And I'm going to come back to my original image, and I'm just going to use select subject. Again, this is the AI tool that Photoshop has for this. It works. It may not be perfect, but it'll work. It'll get us close enough. So I'm going to go to the select menu, and I'm going to come down to select subject. Now, by default, I've got mine set up to actually send that up to Adobe servers. So this is actually being done in the cloud. And it looks like the selection is pretty good. It's actually selected the bag as well. Yeah, and that might work for me. So I'll try the bag as well. And we'll just, whatever, we'll see. I'm going to go back up to my image now. That's actually the blown out version of this. I'm going to click on it to make it active. And then I'm going to add this as a layer mask. And you can see that what it's doing now is that it's actually masking the background and allowing the figure to get blown out. So I need to invert my mask so that the hotter version of this is not affecting the girl, it's just the background. So Command I to invert the mask. So this is now what I've actually done to open up that background. And now that I say it, I'm actually okay with leaving this background white. I don't see any reason to pull that back down. Is the detail blown out? Sure. Do I care about that? No. Again, the whiter and the less sort of detail I've got going on in this background works better for me. So that's how I'm going to keep this. But where I do have a problem with is the hair. So if I take a look at the hair right now, this whole part is blown out in the top. So again, I want to then create another file here to bring those highlights back down. So to do that, I'm going to again make a copy of my original one because my base layer is much closer to what I'm looking at right now. It's not the version that's sitting on top. So I want to start with the same copy that has the same settings for processing my raw data in it. So I'm going to go back down to my base layer, again, make it active, come up to the layer menu, down to Smart Objects, New Smart Object via Copy. I'm going to double click on that to open it up, and then this time I want to do highlight recovery. So I'm going to click in so I can actually see her hair. If you come over to the panel that's over here, we can actually use highlights. So again, in my exposure panel, I'm going to grab my highlights and I'm going to drop them down to try to pull stuff back in here. And you can see it's bringing them down a little bit. I'm also going to lower my exposure slightly on this. And this actually is looking better for me right now. It's still a little bit hot in here. I'm okay with that part, a little part of that blowing out. I mean, that's actually natural, but I've gotten a whole lot of the hair back again. So this is what I want to do for my hair layer. I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. And so now I've brought that part back down, but again, you can see this is now covered. This is now doing her entire body. I've made her skin tone way too darker. I want this restricted just to her hair. So if you click on this layer that is just her hair, I'm going to turn off the layer that's up above it just to make it easier for the tool to actually find the edges of the hair. So I'm going to use the object selection tool now to see if I can get just the hair selected. So it's the fourth tool down. If you click on this on the lower corner, you have three options. You have the object selection, the quick selection, and the magic wand. I'm going to use the object selection at the top. I'm going to come over and click on the girl. When I do that, you will see that up in your options panel, there is now a thing that says select people. If you click on the select people, you will see that there's a thumbnail of her in that. If you click on the thumbnail of that, you will get a drop-down menu that allows you to select the entire person, or in our case, just the hair. So I'm going to click on hair, and we'll see what the marching ants ultimately are on this. And you can see, if in this case right now, the hair is is pink. That's all I've got going on in here, which is exactly what I want selected in here. So I'm going to click on apply. And now I've got a selection that's going around that is just the hair. Sorry. I'm going to come back to my image, my smart object here that I processed just for the hair, and I'm going to click Add Layer Mask to this. And then to get rid of that pink background, select the Move tool at the top. It'll just get rid of something else. And so now I'm going to double click on the hand. This is where I'm at right now. So if we take a look at what this did, actually I'm going to turn on all 3 layers. So what I've done is I've used this second layer right here to bring her hair back in. I've used the base layer just to start out, but then I'm using this other layer in here to actually, this layer in here to actually give me more separation between the two. Now, the other thing about this thing in the background that's actually affecting everything except the girl is I can run smart filters on this. So I also think that this background is a little too sharp right now. So with this, I'm going to zoom in to the girl here so I can see what's really going on in here. I'm going to take that top layer. Again, the mask is hiding the girl, so the girl isn't going to be affected by this. But I can use a smart filter on this, meaning it's a non-destructive move. So up to the filter menu, down to blur, down to Gaussian blur, and you can see I've got a 53 on mine. That's a little too much. So I'm going to drag mine back, and we're just going to soften it up a little bit more. So I'm going to see where I'm at here. Try like a 10, something in there. Use your preview check mark to turn it on and off, and you can sort of see what's going on in here. Does that give me a little bit more separation? Yeah, I think it does. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. If I don't like this, again, it's a smart filter. When you save this file and close it up and open it back up again, this smart filter will be intact, and it will also have its number in it. So if you feel like, oh God, that was too soft, that was a mistake, double click on this and just adjust it and say, okay, well, I'm only going to bring it down to like a 6 instead. That's now working better for me. So it's all about separating the girl from the whole rest of my scene. However, the last thing we want to talk about is color correcting by the numbers. So you definitely need to write this down. So I'm going to try to do this in a way that actually makes sense without going to the whiteboard. So hang on one second. I'm going to use my tablet to do this. It's just easier. Okay, so we talked about already, I'm going to zoom into this girl's face. And we talked about this area right in the bridge of her nose, the highlight in there being around a 235. You can actually see, if you look at my readout in here, it's reading like a 231, 233. So it's actually close to my target point. However, I'm going to do a new file in here. You don't need to do this. I'm just doing something that I can actually write on. Okay, so this gets tricky, but it works really, really well. So I'm going to show you and this works for all skin tones. It's a relationship between CMY and K to establish skin color. So again, this is something that you should write down or shoot a picture of this once I get it up on the screen, and you can actually take a look at it here. But these values that I'm going to give you are in CMYK. This is how everyone works to do this work. However, we're working in an RGB world, so I'm going to show you how you make the transition between that. But the way to think about this is, let me get a brush going here really quickly and make sure it's hard brush, normal. Okay, good. So here is the relationship, the values that you want to. We're going to start out for Caucasian skin. All of the skin color relationships are the same except for K. We'll get into what that is in just a second. So we're going to start with C, M, Y, and then K. So for M, this is where we're going to start. The magenta channel. M always equals M. You do not change M. Everything else is based on that. C equals 1/3 to 1/5 M. Y equals M all the way up, it's a range, to M plus 50 percent M. So we're going to do that calculation. I'm going to come back to this just a second. We're going to do this calculation based on the girl that's actually behind this. So if I pull this out of the way, I go back to my original image right here. I am going to put a color sampler point right on that highlight on her. No, actually I take it back. I'm not going to do it on the highlight right here. You want to avoid the highlights and you want to avoid shadows. You also, in this case, this girl has makeup on. You want to avoid makeup. So what you're looking for is an area of sort of like general skin. Foreheads are usually a really good place to actually do this work. I'm going to stay away from the really light side over here. I'm going to do something that's sort of in this mid-range over in here. I'm going to put a color sampler point out there. So again, the eyedropper tool down to color sampler tool, and then simply come to this area right in here, and I'm going to click and drop a point. Make sure that yours is a 3x3 average. If it's not, click on that sample size and change it from point sample to 3x3. And then you'll see you've got an RGB readout that's sitting right here. I don't want this in RGB. I want to see this in CMYK. So again, very similar to when we were using the levels control when you were doing your knockouts for your last assignment. We can change the scale that this reads out in. So I'm going to click on that number one little eyedropper, click on the drop-down menu, and you want to come down to CMYK color. And so this is the values that you want that I just showed you right here. So let me see, I'm gonna try to change this image just so that I can see both. All right, so now I've got my the skin image selected. So what we are looking for here for Caucasian skin, write this part down. These relationships right here still exist, but I didn't finish this last one, so sorry. And the last one is for Caucasian skin, K should equal 0. That works also for Asian skin. Those would both be, K is set to 0. So I'm just looking for these three values right here. If we go back to our image, if we look at our image right now, you can see that K on this Caucasian skin is set at 0. That is correct. M does not change. M is 26, and what I want M to be is what I want C to be now is 1/3 to 1/5 of M. Well, if you take 26 and you divide it by 5, you get 5, which is right where my C is. If you take 26, which is M, and divide it by 3, you get roughly 9 is probably the closest. So my C value, I want it to be somewhere between 5 and 9 right here. Mine's already at 5, so I have no reason to change that. My M value right here, my Y value right here is supposed to equal M all the way up to M plus 50%. So this Y right here is 28. It could be actually as low as 26, which would equal M, or you take the 26, half of 26 is 13. You add the 13 to the 26, which will give you 39. So the range for my Y for this image, I would want to be between 26 and 39. The more yellow you add, the more it begins to resemble Asian skin. Now, guys, do not look at me like I am some racist here. These are just numbers that the printing industry all over the world uses. So this has got nothing to do with that. It's simply these are the numbers, the values you're looking for. So in my case right now, I'm exactly in the range that I need to be in this. So I don't see major color correction that I have to do. It's bright enough in the highlight spot for what I want. It's also, according to my schedule, the values that I'm looking for in here, it is correct as well. And that's largely a consequence of this has been white balanced. And again, the profile that was used to build this has actually also been generated from my camera and this scene. So this part will work great. So when you move into African American skin, East Indian skin, that kind of stuff, the relationship of CMY does not change. The relationship of CMY is common to all races. It does not make any difference. What changes is when you start to get skin that is darker, the value of K starts to become a player. So if you start out with a small amount of K, which is a little bit of black ink, whatever, you have a very light skin African American. As you start to move that scale up, you'll start to get into deeper and deeper and deeper versions of that. But the CMY relationship does not change. The same relationship here still exists no matter how dark or light that skin actually gets. Questions about this? Okay, I'm going to close this up. But this is how I would process and print this file. Vastly different than anybody turned in, because I'm basing this all on stuff that I mean, look at how she separates and pulls out of this. Questions about any of this? Okie dokie. It's exactly 2 o'clock. Let's make it a hard 10, guys. I'll see you at 2:10. All right, so mine is hopefully in my toss folder somewhere. Castle. Yeah. You can close up the girl on the street thing. You don't need to save that. But wait, before I go there, here, are there any questions about that whole process that we went just through? Wow, that's not even English. The process we just went through, any questions about this? Are we all good on this? So again, you're creating a new DNG, which is a raw file. You're starting, then using that as your starting point, not the CR2 files or the NEF files or whatever format it is you're shooting for your raw file. You're changing it. It's the one single advantage I believe that there is to having a DNG, is that you actually can embed those profiles into your image. And so anyway, all right. So with the castle part selected, I'm going to hide everybody else. And I'm just going to check to see what I've done on all of this. So yeah, this is my castle, and it's looking pretty much like the way we left off. We have a problem with this though. So if you zoom in, so again, keyboard shortcut, spacebar and command key, or spacebar and control key for Windows. Zoom into the area where the grass actually meets the sky on the upper left-hand part right here. And you can see in this area right here, there's a problem with this. So I'm going to show you 2 solutions to actually fixing this problem, and we'll see which one we think works better. Typically, I would only show you one of these 2 ways, but Photoshop keeps working on the select and mask workspace, and indeed it might be upgraded to the point now where it's better than the version that I'm going to show you. So we're going to take a look at both ways of doing this. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to go to your sky layer, the one that's on the very top. You need to click on the mask to make it active. Again, you don't want to go into the select and mask workspace without the mask, so you want to click on the mask to make it you got the border around the layer mask itself. If you take a look at your properties panel now, because we are on the mask, this is actually changed, and you can see there's a select and mask button right here. You either click on that one, or you can always go up to the select menu and come down to select and mask. Either way, it'll get you into the same thing. Now, when I come into this space, it looks like that problem largely goes away, which is interesting because we haven't made any sort of selection here at all. So I'm going to see what this will actually do. I'm going to use this to make a new layer. So scroll down to the very bottom, click on this output to new layer with layer mask, and go ahead and say OK to that. Oh, wait a second. Hang on 1 second. Click on your drop-down menu here. I am on the onion skin. That does seem to have gone away. So yeah, I'm going to try and see if somehow this has automatically done this, but it sure doesn't look like it, because it looks like I've got that same problem as existing right there. Let's try something else. I'm going to throw this layer away because it didn't change anything, not the mask, but the entire layer. Oh, please. Make this one active again, click on it. I want you to turn off both of the ones that are underneath it. That's not going to help us either. We need to have one, well, you need to have them both on, so that's not going to help either. I'm going to try this one more time going into the Select and Mask workspace. Oh, let's try this. Command click to load this as a selection. So I've just loaded the selection of the mask, and now I can't go into the Select and Mask workspace, so that's not going to work. Command D to deselect. I may not be showing you how to do this in Select and Mask. I may show you, this is going to, the way I always do it and the way I was going to show you here. I was just hoping that we could see how this would work. Let me try Select and Mask one more time. Again, it's actually doing the work for me, and yet I don't see that part. So let's try this. Click on your View menu on the drop down and bring it all the way down to On Layers, and now we see the problem. So we're going to leave it there. So if you pick On Layers from this View menu, it will show you the result of your composite. So it'll show you what you're actually looking at in Photoshop, and it will show you the changes that we're going to make in real time. So it's already used the Quick Selection tool, the one that's at the very top on the left-hand side. That's not going to help you at all. It's the Refine Edge tool that's sitting right underneath it. Click on that and then make your brush smaller. You do not want to run this brush anywhere you don't want it to be. So the only area I want it to be is this little area where the sky is meeting the grass. You don't want to paint, you don't want to use a big brush because you'll end up running this tool on a lot of the grass, which will fuck it up, and you'll also be running it on the clouds, which will fuck that up. You don't want to do any of that. So I'm going to just click on this edge and I'm going to run it down. And I'm going to stop when I get down to the castle and let go. And this actually does a fairly good job, but from my guess, this is not the tool that we want to be using right now to do this. So I'm going to hit cancel out of here, and I'm going to show you the tool that I think you should be using. So again, with the mask selected on the top layer that is the sky, because this is where the problem is. This is now hidden in Photoshop. It used to be, there was a tool years ago in Photoshop called Refine Edge. When they created the Select and Mask workspace, they didn't get rid of the tool. They based the Select and Mask workspaces all based on using the Refine Edge tool, but they've hidden the Refine Edge tool right now. In my opinion, it works better for this kind of work than the Select and Mask workspace actually does. So I'm going to show you how to use that tool, and then we will move on. So to use the tool, if you come up to the Select menu and you come down, there is Select and Mask sits right here. And if you click on it, you will actually go right into the Select and Mask workspace. That's not what we want to do. So let go of the menu, hold down your Shift key before you select this, and then come up to the Select menu down to Select and Mask, and you will see a completely different thing that comes open. You get the Refine Mask tool. Again, this is a hidden feature now, so we are going to work with it, and I'm going to go through all the properties about how this thing works. So move the tool off to the side so that it doesn't cover up your image. And right now you can actually see, in my case, yours might be different. In my case right now, I can't see, all I can see is the sky part, but that's because of the view that we've got. If you click on this view and use the drop-down menu and you go down to On Layers, you will see the result of your image, the full composite of your image. Now inside this image, there are tools that we can control how we run this tool. So the thing that you should know about Refine Edge, and this works using the Refine brush and Select and Mask as well. They are the same thing. Well, they're not the exact same thing, but they work the same way. We're going to refine this edge. The trick to this is to realize is that you can only do this once. There is no strength slider in this. There is no, oh, I only want it to be a little bit and I don't want it to be, it's not. It's either full on or full off. So what you do in this box right here that we are controlling is you tell Photoshop where you want to run the tool. It's really the algorithm, the software underneath this. You say to Photoshop, I want you to run your beautiful algorithm for refining edges in this area, but I don't want you to do it in that area, because this tool can screw things up just as well as it can make things better. And it's something to know about refining edges. When you do it, you can actually make things worse. And if you make them worse, do not get caught into the mindset that, oh, well, I refined the edge, I've got to keep it because that should be better. It's not. It can actually make things worse. So what we're going to start with here is I'm going to zoom over so I can see a little bit of the castle part as well. We're going to start actually with this edge detection right here, and you'll see that there's a radius slider down here at the bottom. If you click this radius slider and you start to drag towards the right side, you'll see it grows in time, it grows in space, whatever, and you'll also notice it has actually fixed the edge that's along the grass part right here. There is no preview button in this. So if you want to see the preview button, or you want to see what it looks like a before and after, if you look at the top of the Refine Mask palette that opens up, there is a Show Original. If you click on the Show Original, this is what it looks like before we did anything. If you then click on uncheck that, it'll show you what this tool is actually doing. And it's doing a pretty good job of getting rid of that part. However, if you come and you look at the top of the castle up here, so I'm looking at the rooftop of the castle line up at the top, and you click on Show Original, you'll actually see that this tool is damaging part of the castle at the very top. It's lopping off bricks at the very top. It's not doing a completely horrible job, but it's a little bit too aggressive up there for my liking. If you then click on the check mark that's above that that says Show Radius, go ahead and click on that. What this is showing you is the actual radius of this tool. So the tool knows where the mask is. It knows where black actually is meeting the white. And so what it's doing is it's actually just creating an area where those two meet. And if you grab your radius slider and you start to drag it and make it bigger, you will see it gets bigger on your screen. And so this tool controls where you really want this whole area to actually be on here. The problem that I have, I'm going to zip all the way back out so you can see mine. The problem that I have is that when I get the tool big enough to actually work on the grass, it's too aggressive on the castle. So I need to adjust that. So to do that, I'm going to turn off the show radius. I just wanted you guys to understand what it actually was. I'm going to zoom into the castle. I'm going to zero out the radius here. I can see little white halos on the top of my castle. So I'm going to start to drag the slider towards the right until I see those things disappear. And they pretty much disappear right around a 1.2 radius. Yep. Those are all gone now. Again, you can use your Show Original to bring them back and to take them off. So that's oh, by the way, and Smart Radius above that is going to try to do all the work I'm going to show you in here on its own. Smart Radius is for stupid people. Do not use it. It'll not work for you. Don't use it. Don't use it. Don't use it. So at any rate, now I'm going to hold down the hand to get on this. But as I come over, I don't have enough radius to fix the stuff that's in the grass. The grass has actually still got that white halo line in it. I can't make the slider radius anymore. Otherwise, I start to damage the castle. So I need to actually leave the Smart Radius where it is right now. But now I need to actually make the radius larger for this area of the grass. To do that, it's the tool that is right to the left of edge detection that looks like a brush. If you click on the edge of it, the lower right-hand corner, you'll get a drop-down menu, and you can select either the Refine Radius tool or the Erase Refinements tool. You want to select the Refine Radius tool. It works just like a brush. You can make it larger or smaller. I use the bracket keys to make it larger or smaller. You don't want to run this tool anywhere where you shouldn't have, where it doesn't need it. So I've got a radius of mine about 25 pixels. You can see that up in the options bar for the tool. I'm going to start on the far left-hand side, and I'm simply going to click and start to paint across that haloed line that's actually up at the very top. And you'll see it starts to make your image really black. That's really just showing you where you're laying this down. And you want to bring this all the way down till it just touches the castle, but doesn't actually hit the castle. And now it is actually, my line here is considerably better. To see what we just did, if you click on your Show Radius, you can see we have now painted a large area that will encompass all of the grass. We have not changed the area around the castle. That part's exactly where it should be. And now I'm going to see what's going on at the other side. So now I'm on the right side of the castle. I'm going to turn off show radius. I just wanted you guys to see you can have multiple size radiuses in this when you're doing this work. But again, remember, what the radius is saying is that run your software on this, but anywhere where this image is black right now, you are not running that at all. So it really restricts, it tells Photoshop where to do it and where not to do it. So I'm going to look at this area over here. I'm going to turn off show radius. We can actually use the show original on and off part again. And if you take a look at the edges right here, if I zoom in, the edges around the trees, that's what I'm looking right here. The radius slider it's not big enough to get all of the work on the trees. So we still need to use the brush to fix the top of the trees. You can see there's halos here. It looks like it's there. Some of these have got snow on them. That's all the same problem we had with the grass on the other side. So I'm gonna make my brush a little bit smaller, and I'm just gonna hit the areas that need it. So you'll see some areas don't need it, but it looks like pretty much everything along here does. So I'm simply going to paint along this line, just like I did for the top of the grass, and work my way completely over. Let go of the hand tool, start it again. It looks like all of this needs it. So I'm going to go through all of the trees, and then I'm going to stop when we get over to the beachhead. And that actually looks pretty good. Again, use your show original to turn it on and off and to see what you fixed. Again, it lopped off the top of some of those trees, but it got rid of the halos, and no one is going to know that it's lopped off the top of those trees. So then I'm going to look at what's going on, I call it the beach. I don't really know what that is in the background. It looks like sand to me. But if you do the show original on and off here, you can actually see this is not halo, this is actually texture. It's like the top of dunes over here. So all of that stuff in there actually should probably remain in there. Maybe not this dark part that's at the top, but the parts on the sand certainly should be in here. So I'm going to do the last tool that I'm going to do is the remove radius tool. So again, if you click on show radius, there's a small amount of radius that's running along this that was from the slider. We need to get rid of some of that, and then we need to bulk up other parts of it. So I'm going to turn off show radius. It's just so that you guys can see what's going on. So instead of add radius tool, if you click on that same tool that's on the left-hand side of refine mask, click on the drop-down menu, you have the erase refinements. And what I'm going to do is it's a brush. I'm going to use the erase refinements, and I'm going to run that along the edge of the top of the sand dunes until I get to that dark area. You'll see it starts out and it shows you as really white, but then when you let go, it actually brings back the texture that's in the top of the dunes. I'm going to run this all the way over till I hit that dark area. The dark area in here, I think, is a more halo than it is actually texture in there. To see what's happening, or what I just did, if you click on show radius, you can see it all got removed. I just erased it from this area. I said, I do not want you to run your software on top of that, of the little dune areas right there. However, when I get over to this next part, the darker part that's in the background, this actually needs to get that halo removed from it. So I'm going to go back to the refine radius tool. I'm going to use that. Uncheck show radius, uncheck show original. I'm going to run that along the very top of that dark area. And that removes that part. And then finally, the erase refinement tool. I'm going to use that along the top of the rest of the dunes. To bring back what I think actually belongs there. And then if you double click the hand, you will kick back out. Double click the hand up here and you will kick back out. And now if you want to see what your radius looks like, turn it on. You can see that there's a big hunk of it on the grass that's on the left-hand side. There's a very small line of it around the entire castle. There's more of it, the big part, to actually catch the top of the trees. Then we get rid of it on the dunes that are between the trees and whatever that darker thing is in the middle of the dunes. And then we get rid of it again. And so what we're saying is that This is where you run the algorithm in this. And again, in your drop-down menus right now, you can do this to a layer mask, which is safe. You could do it to a new layer, which is not safe, that will apply the mask. You could do this to a new layer with a new layer mask. I'm going to do that because I want to be able to compare this to what we had going on before. Again, new document is destructive, it applies to layer mask, and then new document with a layer mask. In my case, I'm just going to select new layer with layer mask. Again, like before, all these adjustment tools that are up here, this is not where we want to use these tools. This is not where we want to do the work that these things are meant to do. So simply leave those alone. Don't just leave those alone. Again, I'm going to do a new layer with a new layer mask. I'm going to say okay to that. And then we can actually see the difference in this. If we zoom in, things are looking pretty good here. If I do the reverse and change it, that's now what the original one looked like. And then this one is now the one where I've got the refined edge. So something to keep in mind. It's the last thing that we're going to do about this. If you look over in your channels palette, you've got a mask here called Sky. The problem with that is that that is a mask that was created using before we did the refine edge. That is this Sky mask right here. I don't want to use that one. I want to use the refined one. So I'm going to actually completely throw away this Sky layer, the original one, because it's not been refined. I'm going to turn on the other one where it has been refined. I'm going to come over to my channels palette. You will see that there is a thing that's called Sky Copy Mask /. That's actually this mask right here. If you click out of it, like I'm going to click on the base, that thing goes away. It's a temporary thing indicating that if you're on this layer, this is what's going on up here. But if you click on the base, the real Sky mask that I've got in here is sitting right here. And this was the original one I made. I don't want that one anymore. Throw it away. So click on Sky, drag it down to the garbage, then command click over the Sky mask copy, the one that is refined. Command click on that, and we are going to save that because this is now the refined version of the Sky mask. Up to the select menu, down to save selection, and type in Sky. You want to get in the habit, if you're doing any sorts of refining your masks, you don't want to end up all of a sudden having 6 or 7 Sky masks. You don't know which one was the last one, which one has been refined. For me, I throw those things away. What other people will do is other people will version number their Skies. So we had the original version that existed. I would have left that in place. I wouldn't have thrown it away. I would have then command clicked to load the new one, the refined one, done a save selection, and called it Sky version 2. And then if you went in and you refined it further, it would be Sky version 3 or Sky version 4, and you just keep going. That way you know that the highest version number is the one that you actually have going on and that's in place. Questions about any of this? Did this work? You can close that up. You don't need to save that. Okay. What is the single best selection tool in all of Photoshop? We've gone over a lot of them right now. What's your all's vote? No one? Quick selection tool. It's a good one. Anybody? Any other things? Select and mask workspace, the subject selection tool, all of those things are like viable, right? But I said the best tool. It's the pen tool. Every single compositor in the world will tell you it is the pen tool. How many of you guys in here have ever used the pen tool? So for those who are shaking their hands like that, my guess is that what happened is that when you started to use the pen tool, things just went horribly wrong and you're like, fuck this, I'm not doing this ever again, right? Which is true because they've made the pen tool so complicated and so whatever. So I'm going to show everybody in this class how to do this. This is the nexus of this class. Your homework will all be involved in using the pen tool. So again, I beg you every week, I'm going to continue to beg you every week to actually do these things in class with me. It will give you experience. It will also bring up any questions, or if you don't understand something, all of that gets raised. So please do this with me. I'm going to show you guys actually I'm going to massively simplify the pen tool and then show you how it works. And then I'm going to show you the strategies for actually using it in place. But the advantage of the pen tool is that you can see all of the edges that you're looking for in your image. If you can't see an image, well, then you're just making it up anyway, and it doesn't matter. But unlike all the other tools, even the AI tools, all of those, they have to go in and analyze your image. And admittedly, Photoshop, Adobe has gotten better and better and better at this every single day. Every new iteration that comes out that lets you do select subject. Select subject and refine hair has actually gotten incredibly strong. Is it as strong as it could be? Is it as strong as I can do? Not yet. It's getting close. And so what I'm going to show you may eventually go away. But there will come a time, so for instance, let's look at this really quickly. It's not the image we're going to work on, but I want you to open this image with me just so that you can see the problem areas that I'm actually talking about. So if we go into our retouching, I'm going to do it for class number 3. Go into your student files, and again, there is this Hair Fantasia copyrighted by Lisa Gange. If you can open that in Photoshop really quickly. So in this case right here, if you zoom into this area that's right over here by her cheek, there is a point in here. I mean, you can see this, but these are so close together in tone right here. This is going to be extremely difficult for any of the AI tools or any of those to actually find that edge. We can try it right now. I don't know if this will work, but let's just see if we do a select menu. So come up to the select menu and come down to subject, and we'll see what it does. And it actually finds that edge pretty well in here. It's missing actually part of it. I take that back. If you take a look where this is right now, I'm going to put a serious contrast curve on mine. You don't need to do this, but it's a way to spot that edge a little bit easier. So let me throw a curve on here. We're going to max the contrast in this. Oh, that's actually showing me the selection. So I'm going to select this again. And I don't want that on there. Actually, I'm going to drag all this down. Just to see if I can see the edge better. I'm going to make things darker. So for my money, it's missing this whole edge right along here. Part of her skin is coming out even further than that. So, good job. Pretty good job, yes, whatever. But at any rate, this is the kind of place where that edge that we were just looking at is just screams for you to use the pen tool on it. So at any rate, that's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out how to use the pen tool. So to do that, go to today's class, which is session 4, into your student files. Inside your student files, I just want to show you a couple of things in here. So there's some PDFs in here. The thing that I want to show you first is this pen tool and path PDF. You need to save this. If you have trouble doing this, open this up. This is actually comes from this is how I learned to use the pen tool, because I was like all of you. It was incredibly frustrating to work with it. It didn't work. It did weird shit. But once I saw how to do this method right here, it changed everything. And again, this is what I will say to you. People, I see this happen all the time. People will start and they'll build a selection using one of the automated tools, quick selection tool or object selection tool, all that kind of stuff, whatever. And they'll create a mask with it, and the mask will slightly be off. So then they'll go in with a brush, and they will try to adjust it, and they will try to actually paint a little bit more to control where the mask is or isn't, and they inevitably overshoot it, and so then they have to go back. And anyway, an hour later, they are still fucking with that line, trying to come up with where the edge should actually be. If you just abandon all of that and went straight to the pen tool, you could actually knock that out in 5 or 10 minutes and you would be done and it would be perfect. But people don't do that. So again, I can't tell you, what I can tell you is that there is no professional retoucher that will say to you that the pen tool is not worth learning, blah, 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 blah. There are factories in East India that do absolutely nothing but path work. So the pen tool creates a path. There are the places that are in India that do this stuff. You actually send them files, and they will go in and they will path every single thing out, and then they'll send you the file back. You can do this work yourself. I'm just telling you, that's how important it is. They have factories of people that are doing nothing but pen work. That's how incredibly important this thing is. So anyway, that's why we're going to learn it. The reason I'm pointing this thing out is that if you get lost in this work when you're trying to do your homework, simply come back to this. It will walk you through all the steps, everything that we're going to talk about and that we're going to do in class right now. This is also based on illustrations that are from Adobe version 5, which goes back to sometime in the, well, this book itself was written in the late 70s, so it goes back that far. So things in here will be slightly different, but the options will be the same. You just have more options now. We'll go over what those all are. So anyway, I just want to refer this to everyone. So the thing that I want to start with is if you go into your session 4 folder, there's a file called Viacom_path TIFF. If you can open that into Photoshop, please. I'm going to double click on the hand to come in, and you should see it's an outline of a Viacom, and most of you should see also these little blue guidelines that are on top of this. Does everybody have that part? Yes. What does it say? What's it say? Oh, it can't verify, so it says move to trash. Hit cancel on that. Yeah, Apple has like shut everything down. So if you're having this problem, watch my screen, do these steps. So you're getting, they're getting this file warning and it's saying they cannot verify. They're worried that this file is infected. They can't verify the safety of this file. It's large probably because it's so old. But at any rate, to fix that, come up to your Apple menu, come down to System Settings. When System Settings opens up, you are looking for Privacy and Security. When Privacy and Security opens up, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and down at the bottom under Security, it should have a warning that shows you why it's saying, we didn't let you open this last file. Do you want to open it anyway? And you want to click on Open Anyway, and then it's going to say Open Anyway again, and you say yes, and then you have to type in your whatever your password is on your computer, and it will actually open. Did that work? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to use my Command key and space bar to zoom into the V. So you want to start pretty, again, you don't need to see the rest of the Viacom part, whatever, but this is we do need to see. I don't like the little blue guidelines on here. I don't want to get rid of them, but I don't really like them. They get in my way. I don't really want to see them. So if you want to temporarily hide them, hit Command H for hide. The first time you do that, a screen will, a dialog box will open up and say, do you want to hide extras or do you want to hide Photoshop? You want to select extras. If you screwed this up and you want to get back where Command H actually does hide your extras, which we use in this class a lot, you have to reset your preferences, and then the first time you open it up, you will get that option again and you're off to the races. Okay, so the pen tool, where it is, it's the P key is the shortcut for it. So if you simply hit the P key, it will actually select the pen tool. It's sort of in the bottom, the top of the bottom half of your tool palettes on the far side to the on the left. If you click on the little drop-down menu that sits on the lower right-hand side of it, you'll get a flyout menu, and you'll see At the top is the pen tool, under it is the freeform pen tool, under it is the curvature pen tool, under it is the add anchor point, under that is the delete anchor point, and then a convert point tool. You will never use anything but the pen tool at the very top. So this is what I said. If you actually listen and follow this stuff, I'm going to simplify this tool greatly for you. So we've just eliminated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 6 possible tools in this. So I have now just erased 5 out of 6 into 6 into 50 is what 6 into 100 is roughly 15. 5 is 50. I just removed 3/4, a little more than 3/4 of the tools in here. You're never going to use them. Select the very top one, forget about it. When you do that, you need to look up at the very top at your options bar. There are things up here we need to change. The first or change or just make sure that are set correctly. The first is this drop-down menu. You can have either a path or a shape. You want to make sure that path is selected. It is the default, but if you've ever changed this to shape, that is a sticky call. So you want to make sure that that does say path. The icons that are here in the middle, you do not need to worry about right now. The 3 little icons, one looks like a sort of overlapping squares. What you're going for, though, is the gear. And in the gear, if you click on the gear, you'll get a drop down. Now, this is where things are slightly different than they are in the PDF that I've got. In the PDF I have, they do have the rubber band selection, and you do want to select that. But what they don't have in there is your ability to control the thickness of your line. In our case, we're going to leave it at 1 pixel thickness. Then you can change the color. This is just the line of the path. This is not a printing color. It won't show up in your image. It's just the line of the path. The only reason you would want to change the color, if you click on this drop down, you can pick any of these other canned colors in here. The only reason you would want to change it is if you, like for instance right now, it's set to like a medium blue. If you were working on a medium blue image, it gets to be very hard to see where you're laying the path down. So you would simply go in here and change it to the opposite, and the opposite of a medium blue would actually be a yellow. In our case, we're working on a black and white image. Leaving it at its default medium blue is fine. That won't be a problem. And then finally, this auto add delete. You want to go ahead and leave that checked. This is how the tool is set up to work, and how it will always be set up to work. So I want you to watch what I'm going to do really quickly, and then I'm going to let you guys do it, and we'll work our way over a step at a time and get to the tricky part in just a minute. So to start with, your tool should look like a little plus. If it does not, if it looks like the pen tool, you can't use it. You don't have enough precision. So does anybody have an icon that looks like the little pen tool? Okay, you need to change that. To change that, go up to the Photoshop menu. Are you on Windows or Mac? Mac? So up to the, if you're on Windows, you simply go to the Edit menu down to Settings or Preferences, whatever they call it. For the Mac people, up to the Photoshop drop down, come down to Settings, and then you want to come down to Cursors and let go. And in Cursors, in the very middle where it says Other Cursors, you want to select Precise and say OK. You will now have crosshairs. Okay. So this is how the tool works. Just watch, and I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to get through this. So I'm going to start in the top. You can start anywhere in this. It doesn't really matter. I just start and work my way from left to right. So I'm going to start at the very top, and you want to click once, and you'll see it puts down a point. Now, I am not dragging. You do not do a click and drag for these straight line segments. You simply click once and let go. Note to everyone, the best tool that you can use, do not try to do this on a graphics tablet. You will hate it. What happens with a graphics tablet is this. If you are, everybody look at me up here. So I'm hovering above my graphics tablet, and I've got my crosshairs exactly on the point that I want it to be on it. But I haven't clicked yet. I've actually got to drop the stylus down onto my tablet to do that. When you actually do that down movement, you will go off the target that you've actually got, and your point will not land at that intersection. So instead, what you do is do not use this. The best tool to do this with is a mouse, because you can hover right over that point and then click your mouse, and it won't drift. You won't fly off in any direction. Trying to do it with a trackpad is better than a tablet, but worse than a mouse. So if you're going to do serious pen work, I'm actually going to change mine to a mouse when I do we're going to do another work file here in class that's far more complicated, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But at any rate, you'll see as I'm pulling away from this, I can actually put this down. I'm going to go to my next point, but do you see the line that connects the two? That is the rubber band, and it helps us. It gives you an additional aid in terms of where this line is going to go. If you have that turned off, you don't have the rubber band. You can still, it's still going to, the pen tool is still going to work, but the rubber band helps give you an additional guide, and that's why we turn it on. So again, I'm going to come down to the bottom of the V, and I'm going to click again. I'm going to come up to the top edge in this corner and click once, over to the middle and click, down to the apex at the bottom, click, up to the very top, click, and then when I come back to the original, you see when I hover over the original point, this thing changes into a pen tool with a little circle on it, indicating that I'm completing the path, and click. This is now a path in and of itself, and you'll notice I'm just hovering, my pen tool is now out in space. It's not doing anything more because I've completed the path. So I need everyone to do the V. And you need to shout out if it's not working for you or something weird's happening or whatever.
It's asking for the administrators, username and password, so you don't
Oh, you couldn't get the file open? No, that isn't that just
Mine.
hit cancel. Then let me go see if I can get someone. Over here, over here. All right, so go back into your system preferences again, tap that, privacy all the way down to the very bottom, click on, oh yeah, try and open it again and see what happens. And click underneath it, see if we can't stop that. Come up, oh, yeah, and then, yeah, control click to do open with Photoshop. And hit, and then go to, yeah. There, thanks.
I'm locked out.
You're locked out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay. So I need then to move, and this tool, again, this trick will work no matter where you are with your path. If you hold down your space bar, you will temporarily get the hand, and you can actually move your screen over to get the eye into the middle, and then I want everybody to just do the eye. It's the very same thing. You're just clicking the corners. There is no clicking and dragging. They're simply moving your mouse over to the other corner and clicking and putting it in place. and then come back to the end and click, and it's actually in place. And then I'm going to hold down the hand again, and I'm going to move over to the A. But before you do the A, I want everyone to click on the path palette to take a look at what's going on. So with your path palette selected, again, like all things, I suggest that you have the biggest of the thumbnails, because you can really see things inside of that small little thumbnail that matter to you. So if you don't have the big thumbnail that's in the path, again, go over to the menu on the far right side across from the tab that says path. Click on that drop down menu, come down to panel options, and click the radio button next to the biggest of them and say OK. It will help you immensely. But what you see right now is you've got in here, it's called work path, and there is the V and the I on mine. So I'm going to click outside of this. I'm going to click down underneath it. If you click down underneath it, what you will see is that it's no longer selected. Again, that little blue sort of like area around it is an indication that it is, if you've clicked on it, that's active. If you click underneath it, it is not. But you notice this thing is called work path. I want you to now watch this, come over, and I want you to start the A. So click on the A, and you will see that what has now happened, you can even come up and try and put down your second point, your work path, the VI are gone. Work path is always temporary. It's not meant to be something fixed. So if you do not have it selected and you start to do a new path, whatever is on work path will be lost, and it will actually be started again. So in our case, we are going to go back in history where it says new work path. If you click on that, it will come back. Actually, you need to go back even before that where we closed the last path. This will then give you your work path back again. In order to save these things, which you need to do, you have two options. You can click on the little drop-down menu that's to the right of the tab that says path. You can come down and do save path, or you double-click on work path and it will open up and offer to save you a name. So when mine opens up to say save path, I'm going to just type in VI because that's what it is and say OK. Now if you do the same trick, if you come back over, we're going to start a brand new path. So again, I'm going to click outside of the VI. So it's not selected. I'm going to start a brand new path, and I'm going to do the A in that. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to click again and drop it down. So I need everybody to go ahead and click, select, do the path work for the A. And complete it. And now you'll see that again, what I've got here is, I've got the original VI is there, but I've got a new thing, a temporary thing that's got the A on it. Now, again, as long as I'm not deselecting it and starting something else, that A will be there. But I'm nervous that I'm going to lose this A, so I don't want to lose the A. So if you click on work path again, you can actually copy and paste paths. So I'm going to copy this one. If you hit Command C, it will copy it. Come up to the VI and hit Command V, it will paste it in, and that we just put the A path along. Now, that was a copy and paste. So you can see the A is still on the original work path, but it's been added to the VI. I don't want it in the actual work path, so I'm going to go back in time. So back where it did in history again to where it says close path. So again, I've got the A is still on there. Instead of copying this work path, I'm going to cut it. So again, if you can't remember the keyboard shortcuts, cut is Command X, copy is Command C. If you can't remember those, you can always do the menu items up to the edit menu, come down to cut, and you will see work path is now gone. Click on the VI and now do paste up to the edit menu down to paste, and it will be on your VI on that layer. Now with this layer selected, any work that we continue to do now will also still be on this layer because it is selected. So I'm going to hold down the space bar to get the hand and drag it over until I get to the C. Yes?
Just wondering if it's a reason, but when I did the shortcut or did the cut and paste, the A is not white. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does make sense. and then let's just do, oh, you've already got one up there, because that's why that happened, is you put another one on top of it. So you're good, you're in the same place, you can just throw this guy away. Yeah, just drag it down to the garbage. Yeah, totally. If you also want to get rid of paths like this, I mean, if you've done the copy and paste, you can always, if you've got a path going, you can always drag it down to the garbage. There's garbage here as well as there is in layers. So, okay, so to go after this is where everybody gets fucked up on this and the confusion. So I need you to wait and watch how I do this. I'm going to walk you through the steps. It will make this tool accessible to you. It's relatively simple. The steps that you need to learn this are incredibly few, and this thing is a game changer. So this is how you do it. I'm going to start here at the bottom of the C. So again, please watch this. I'm going to click on the bottom, and then I'm going to come up to the top here and just click again. It's exactly the process that we used for the V and the I and the A. It's just these straight lines. That's how you always do straight lines. But now we actually need to do a curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over this. So again, take a look up at my screen, please. What you do is you click and you hold your mouse down. Do not let go of your mouse. And you need to start dragging. And you will see when you start to drag, there are two control handles that are going to appear. The further you drag, the longer those control handles get. Also, you can move these handles in and out like this to actually control the curve. When you click and drag, you want to click in the direction that your path is moving. So you will see, I'm going to do this again, so hang on one second. I'm going to click and drag in the direction that my path is going to go. You do not click and go in the opposite direction. The tool will not work for you. It will only cause you a world of hurt. Click and drag in the direction that it's going, and then it's just your trick. It's like a video game. You just are trying to, if the shorter the handles are as you move them up and down, again, look up at my screen, the action of the curve is happening very close to the point that I'm working with right now, and not so much at the original point at the top of the C. But the further you click this out, the further you drag your lines out, this ends up impacting the area now that is closer to the beginning of the C and much less to the point that I'm working with right now. You need to find the balance in those that actually gives you the exact transcribe of that curve, and then let go of your mouse. And this is the trick. You now need to let go of your mouse, come back over and hover over the center point that you just laid down, hold down your Option key and click, and you will get rid of a control handle. And this allows you to, in essence, start brand new all over again. So I'm going to come down now. The trick to this tool is don't try to do this like there are people who are good enough with the pen tool that could likely do this entire arc of the C with only one point. Don't try to be that ambitious. So what I do is I chop this up. So I'm going to come down here. If you think of this as a clock face, I put that first point around 10 o'clock. I'm going to come down to this bottom down here and set another point around 7 o'clock. But again, watch what happens. I'm going to click, keep holding the mouse down, drag in the direction of the path, and then again, make your lines longer or shorter depending on what you need to do to actually get it to conform to that perfect line. And when you get there, let go, bring your pinpoint back into the center part, hold down the Option key and click to get rid of the second control handle. And then finally finish this off down in the bottom by doing the same thing. Come back, hold down the Option key and click to get rid of it. Now we're back into a straight line. So there is no clicking and dragging. There's simply hovering over that point at the very top. Click once. And then again, I'm going to do this arc in 3 different ways. 3 different points. Back and hover over the center. Option click. One more. Take your time in this part. And then finally finish it out. When you get to the last one and you get that little symbol with the pencil, the pen tip, I've still got my mouse held down. I can still click and drag, but you'll notice I only get one control handle up here and let go. And that's how you do curves. So I need everyone to do the C and tell me if you have problems. 2 fingers though, and that's what's screwing this thing up. So hit Command Z to undo that. Go back. Button. Alright, so do your second point. Click, then come over here, and we're just going to click and drag with just one finger. Just click down and hold it down.
Like this?
Yeah, and then you're going to. Here, let me see what's going on here real quick. So sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I was doing that wacky thing. This looks like a preference issue for me. So let's see. Do you have a mouse by any chance? Do you have regular USB on this?
Yeah.
Let me grab you this mouse and see if this doesn't. Try this. Has anybody else in here got one of those machines that's having problems? Alright, keep it on top. Just click and drag. This has got to be a preference issue here. So just watch what's going on in here, because we've got to figure out a way, because this should not be happening. But that's actually a good arc. So go ahead and let go. Let go of the mouse. And then you're going to bring it back and hover over the center point in there. Hold down your Alt key, I think, and click. And it got rid of that point. Let go of the Alt key, and then continue to do the same thing all the way around. Just click and drag down. Well, that looks better, right? And then come back. Let go. And then come back, hover over that, hold down your Alt key, and click, get rid of the second handle, and then start down further. Yeah. And just keep going. Did this work for everyone? Did this not work for anyone? Okay. We are going to continue on, and you'll notice that it's actually still in that whole via AC. It's on that same path. We're still working on that. Hold down the space bar again. You'll get the hand to move over. So now we get into a little bit more complicated situation. And the reason this is more complicated is that we have paths that are now going to be inside of paths. So again, you need to remember a few things about this. I've simplified the tool pretty much because you can see there's nothing else. Well, there's a few other things that we're going to look at. But in this scenario right here, what you want to do, because I'm going to have a path that resides inside of a path, you want to do the outside one first. So you always are working your way in path from the outside in. If you do that, Photoshop will understand what it is you're trying to do. So you'll see what I mean in this. So I need you to do the same thing here. So I'm going to start at the very top, like at 12 o'clock if this was a clock face. I'm going to come over. I might even try to grab this at 9 o'clock. I might try to do this in 4 points. We'll see. But I need you guys to outline the outside of the O in this. So again, click and drag till you get that shape that's correct. Hover over the point itself, hold down the Option key, click. I'm going to do 6 o'clock now. All right, so I've got mine, and you'll see if you look in the path thumbnail that it's a solid, it's a solid dot now. It doesn't have the interior yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do the interior one now. And now, if you, again, you should be close to being finished. If you take a look at your path now, you can actually see it's doing exactly what you think it should do. There is now a 0 that is in the path thumbnail. Again, all of the parts that reside within these paths are in white on a gray field in the background. I'm going to hold down my space bar one more time to get me to go over and be able to come over and actually get to the M. So I'm going to do, yeah.
Sorry, I know that you said to work the outside in. What would it have done if it did the outside?
It can get confused about what it thinks you're trying to do. It doesn't know that one's going to be nested inside of the other. So these things can end up with, it'll be a solid circle still, even though you'll have two paths within each other. So you've had a path that it's picked the center of that because it knows that that's what it thinks you want to do. But then you add another one around it, and so the whole thing is like you don't have the path in the middle. So anyway, so go ahead and do the M really quickly. Well, don't do it really quickly, but. But do me a favor, if you've done that, when you get sort of, what I want you to do is, I'll show you. I'll look at my screen really quickly. I'm going to come up here. I want you to make a mistake. So for this point that's down here, I want you to actually come all the way down and just click, and then come up again. I want to make a very deliberate, visible mistake in here, and then I'm going to go back up and try to get it back online again. And click like that. So I've got everything on the M is selected except I made one error. If you didn't make an error in yours, you can, well, watch this because this is going to be all about selecting points and being able to move them around. So this works really well. We've got our paths. This is, again, only thing in terms of actually generating these paths that you actually need to know. But you can see now I've got a problem in this area right down in here. There are ways to select different paths, and those are the last things that we need to do that will really talk about how you control and actually work with a path. So unfortunately, I think this is the wrong layout that they do for their tools because they have the pen tools here. Underneath the pen tool is actually the type tool. Type in Photoshop is all paths. So if you use the type tool, you're simply making paths. It's in the form of type. Underneath that is these two errors. This is where my southern accent part comes out. Two arrows. If you click on this, there's a black arrow at the beginning. It's called the path selection tool, and underneath it is a white arrow, the direct selection tool. I want you to select the path selection tool first. When you select that tool, we're going to come over to the M. Again, I'm going to still work on the M, the one that's got the mistake in it. And I'm going to click just anywhere on the path itself. All right, if you click outside of it, so use this tool to click outside, away from it, and you'll see that the little points, those little blue points that represent the points of the path, disappear. If you then click on the point, all of them show up again, but you'll see all of them are in blue. If you then click and actually do something, you can move the path around. You can change it in its entirety. But this is moving the entire path intact. Again, you will notice that all of those little points are solid blue. If you hit Command Z to undo that and bring it back to where we just have the mistake, you can select multiple paths. So I'm going to zoom back out. You can actually take the black selection tool, the black arrow. You can click and drag out over all of your path elements, and it will select all of them. And now you can click and move all of them together in unison. Command Z to undo that. So this has limited use, I think. You can do things like this, though. You can, for instance, click on the C, and then you can do a Command C to copy it. And then we can come over here to the menu on the path palette across from the tab, click on this drop-down path and say, I want to do a new path. And it will say, what do you want to call it? And I'm going to say, I want to call it C because that's what I'm going to do with it. And I'm going to click OK, and you can see it's blank right now, but I had copied that C. That is now on my clipboard. I can now do Command V to paste it, and it shows up down here on this other layer. So this gives you the ability to move paths from layer to layer, to remove them from some layers, to move them completely, to reset them if they're off on in terms of where you really want them oriented. All of those things are possibilities for us. Now, I don't need this. I actually have all the stuff that I need is on that top path. So I can, again, get rid of this C path that I just created by clicking and dragging it down. However, now you see that you have nothing is selected, and that's because the path itself, the layer itself, is not selected. You need to click on that, and then they all become visible. But again, none of them have points on it because I haven't selected any individual path. I would have to do that either using the black tool, which selects the whole path, or click on that drop-down menu again and go to the direct selection tool. This is the white arrow. This is the one that you use to actually fix things, to move single things around. So we're going to come over to our M image again, and again, my bad point is the one that's at the bottom. If you use the white tool to select this, click on it, you will actually notice that it did select all the points. However, instead of having all of them blue, all of them are white except for the one that I actually clicked on. If you click outside of it again, I'm going to click away from the path altogether. They all go away. And now I'm actually going to use the white selection tool to click a point at the very top of the M. If you click up there, you will notice it becomes blue, but all the others are white. The white points are fixed. They are locked into place. The blue points are movable and editable. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to just come down to the point that's down at the bottom that I need to fix. When I click on that, you'll notice it becomes blue, but the one that was blue at the very top is no longer blue. It is now anchored in place. So now with this blue point selected, I can click and just move it around, and I can line it up with how it should be to actually get to this bottom point right here. So you can go in and fix all of your points. So for instance, if I'm looking over at my image right here and I feel like another point here needs a minor adjustment, simply use the white pen, the white tool to click and just do a slight adjustment of this to get it better lined up. And then you can actually look the point that I actually did. Now that I've zoomed in, wasn't quite right. Now it is. Again, you can still use the hand tool to zoom around. All the rest of these guys look pretty good. I'm just checking to see if I have any errant points anywhere else, and they all actually look really good to me. Oh, the crux of my V right here is slightly off, so I'm going to select that. You'll see it turns blue. All the rest of them are white, so they don't move, and I'm just going to simply adjust that part right there. Double click on the hand, and then let's see what this does for us. So what this is going to do, we need to load this as a selection. So how would you imagine you load this path as a selection? Any guesses?
Right-click.
Yes, yes.
Well, save the selection and load the selection.
How do I save it? I don't have a selection going. I got no marching ants at all.
On the toolbar, gives you that option.
Oh yeah, down here at the bottom.
No, the top right.
This one right here. And it says what?
It says to make the selection.
Yeah, make selection. But again, how do we always load selections? Hover over the thumbnail, hold down the command key, and click. It's the same as when we've loaded selections in channels, when we've loaded selections in layer masks, all of it is always the same. Hover over the thumbnail, command click loads this as a selection. And now I would save this as a selection. So up to the select menu, down to save selection, and call it Viacom. And say okay. But now we want to do something with it. So I'm going to go back into my image right now. I'm going to select Viacom because I want to do something up above this. So Viacom is actually selected, where the outlines of this thing really are. And I've got marching ants, so when I add an adjustment layer, it will automatically put a layer mask on that adjustment layer. So I am going to add an adjustment layer. So click on this adjustment layer, and we are going to add a solid color. And in my solid color, I want to make it red. So I'm going to, whatever you have, I'm going to type in 255 red, tab key 0 green, tab key 0 blue, and say OK. And now I've actually got the best possible select. Try to do that with, you know, the lasso tool. Try to do that with the quick selection tool. You know, it will never ever be. I mean, look at how perfectly and precise this is. So this is the advantage of using this tool. I've got one last thing to show you here though, and it's going to be this. So what I want to do now is, you see the space that's underneath the elm? There are these two like mountains underneath the elm. I actually want to fill that with a different color. I don't really care what space I use down here on the bottom, but I want the fill up in here to be perfect. I want it to be a perfect dovetail match. So when we talk about dovetailing in this class, so it's a furniture, it's a way that you join furniture. That's where the term dovetail comes up. But it looks kind of like this. If you open up your fingers like this and you actually mesh them together, a perfect dovetail would be where you don't see any spaces left in here. It would be where these two things come perfectly together. So that's what I want to do. I want to build something in here that will actually give me the perfect white space selection that's actually in here. But the problem in doing that, so I'm going to create a brand new layer to do that. So I'm going to come down here and I am going to create a brand new layer to actually do this part. The problem that I have, I'm also going to go back into your layers palette and turn off the solid color right now, because it'll, I just want you to be able to see the path and not just the edges of that. So I want to actually do this. I want to fill this exactly, but what is the likelihood that I can create a new path? So I'm going to click on this and say, my drop down menu inside, I'm saying I'm going to do a new path, and I'm going to call this dovetail and say, okay. What are the chances are that when I put the new points in here like this, that I am going to hit that I'm going to match up with the ones that are already there perfectly? It will never happen. These points sit on a single pixel. There is no way I'm going to hit. I can get close, but there's no way I'm going to make this exact. So there's a strategy for making these exact, and this is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and leave this dovetail path down here. I'm going to make my path up at the very top active again. So I'm going to click on it. It doesn't matter whether you use the white point, the white arrow on this one or the black arrow one. I'm going to go back to the black arrow, but you could use the white one for this. I'm going to click on this path to make it active. So this is now an active path. You can see it's got the little blue points on it. I'm going to copy this up to the edit menu down to copy, or again, Command C. I'm going to come down to the dovetail now, and I'm going to paste that copy of the M in the dovetail. So again, Command V will actually put it in. So now I'm actually on the dovetail path. You can see the dovetail path is actually in blue. It's not the icon path that's up at the top. So I can now modify this, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to select the white arrow. I'm going to start at the very top of the M's, and I'm going to click on the one at the very top, so on the top left-hand side. If you click on it, again, it stays blue. Everybody else goes white. It means I'm only impacting that point. So we can move it around. Obviously, we clicked on it. We moved the other ones around before. That's how you would fine-tune it. But you can also delete it. Yes?
Sorry. So when I'm copying the M, or I try to make the selection so it highlights all of it. But when I copy and paste, it only does like a part of the M. So
It's all right.
I highlight it.
Well, first get rid of the, let's not look at this so you can really see that. So go back to your layers palette and just turn the eyeball off. Just turn the eyeball off. Good. And go back to path. All right, so, okay, that's fine. And just do Command C, and then click on dovetail and Command V. It is only selecting that part. How bizarre is that?
Yeah.
All right, then come back here. Let's hit Command C to undo that. Come back in here. Let's use the other one. So we're going to use, sorry. That's the move tool. And you've also got the direct selection tool up here. You need the black one. So, do you want to keep this the way this is, or do you want to reset this to its defaults? Because this is fucked up.
I don't want it to the default.
Okay, so then come up to your, all you do is come to that menu, down to toolbar, click on Restore Defaults, say Done, and then you'll find it right down there. So click on that blue, on the white arrow, click and do the path selection. Click on the M, do Command C, come back over, Command P, and you're good.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we now have a copy of the M that's down on the dovetail part. You can see I've picked the very top tool. Again, using the white arrow, I can select this top one that just selects it. You can delete it, so just hit the delete key and it's gone. You can do multiple versions of this. If you come down, because I'm going to get rid of everything except the common points that I want to keep. If you come down to the one that's in the bottom of the top part of the V, if you click on that, it becomes blue. Everybody else is white. But now if you hold down your Shift key and click on the top one, it will allow you to get rid of multiple points. You can see they are both now blue. Everybody else is white. So then hit the delete key. So now I've gotten rid of the top part. I simply need to pick up. I'm not going to touch any of the other points because those are perfectly in register with the original ones because I've just made a copy of it. So to go back now to finish my path, I'm going to hit the pen tool again or hit the P key. I'm going to hover over either the point on this far left-hand side or the point on the far right-hand side. It doesn't matter. If you click on it, it will pick up the path again. And then I'm just going to do a shape down at the bottom. It doesn't matter what you do. I just wanted to get this to show you that you can get stuff to actually be exactly what we're talking about by using a copy of the original points. And so now I'm going to load this as a selection. Again, hover over the thumbnail, Command click. It's now giving me the marching ants. I'm going to go back to my layers palette right now. I'm going to turn on the red, but now and select it, this solid color. I've still got marching ants go. I'm going to add another solid color layer that will actually be masked with my new shape here. So again, click on this. We're going to actually add another solid color. And this time I'm going to make it a solid green. So 0 red, 255 green, 0 blue, and say OK. Command D to deselect. This is how you do perfect dovetailing using the pen tool. Is this working for everyone? I know you think that this is absurd, but wait till you see the next challenge, and hopefully you will all become believers. Okay, now would be a good time for a break. I'm going to call this 3:30. Let's make it a hard 10. Be back at 3:40. We are going to open up a completely different file, something that a real image file that you might actually do this work on. If you've got that file still open, you can close it up. It's done everything that we need it to do. I do want you to look up at my screen really quickly just to talk about here strategies about where you actually, how you use the pen tool, what you actually use it to do. So if you take a look at this illustration right here, what I always say when you're looking for where to put your points down, that the pen tool excels at doing curves. So you want to use the tool to actually make the curve. And what I mean by that is if you take a look at this part, I'm going to do it on the left. So this is a hill, this is a valley, hill, valley. You guys get where this is all going. So if I start here on the side right here, let's say I put a point right here on this part of my curve right here, and then I come up and I actually put my second point right here, you are actually not using the tool to its most effective way of doing it, because it will describe this entire curve in one curve. You do not want to split that up. So instead what you would do, if you still have a point that's right here, I'm going to go ahead and do a point that's really close to the same thing here. I would do another point right here, and then I would go onto the opposite side and put a point here, and let the tool describe this curve right here. So again, you are always looking for the hills and the valleys, the hills and the valleys. So when I come down to this valley down in here, I'm going to do another point here. You can see that this straight section in here is pretty easy to describe with just these 2 points. But there's a serious curve in here. So again, you would want to put this on the other side to use the tool to describe this curve. You do not put a point here and then a point in the middle of the curve. You break the curve in half, and that defeats the whole purpose of the tool. Is this making sense to everyone? What's going on here? All right. I'm going to close that up. We are actually going to do a real example of this, so I want you to open up another file. So the next file to open up is also going to be in our class number 4 in the student folder, and inside this, it's this file called m_7027_02 blah 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 CR2 file. If you can actually open that in Photoshop, again, it's a raw file, so go ahead and click to open this. It'll come open into Camera Raw. And inside of Camera Raw, you can just leave it at its defaults and go ahead and say open as object. Okay, so the challenge that I have with this is twofold. The first challenge is I want to select the edge of this. And again, I can do, there's all sorts of ways that we can think about trying to go after this. Again, we could try select subject, and that might actually do a really good job, but I need to show you and give you practice using the pen tool, because when this isn't a good job, this isn't a good job. And then the hair, because the hair, we cannot use the pen tool for this. So we're going to have to use a combination of a mask or a selection that has been created using the pen tool for the body, and then a completely different one that's actually based on luminosity to do the hair, and then we got to put the two of them together to effectively build a mask. Yes? What does it say? It says what? That's not good. Okay. Hit OK. Quit Photoshop. Open it back up again. And then try to open that file again. And then you can just open this. Okay. So what I'm gonna, again, I need you to watch my screen. I'm gonna show you a couple of strategies here that you need to keep in mind when you do this. But let me put it to you this way. I just want you to know how important this is. When people shoot automobiles, nobody does the pen tool work on an automobile, because what they do is they literally do every single element of the automobile. So if you think about a wheel on a car, they will do the exterior of the tire, the exterior, the interior of the tire where it meets the rim. They will do the rim, whatever. They will do every single nut. They will do every single screw that's in the middle of the nut. They do every single feature that's on the hubcap. They do the air stem, that's actually where you put air in the car. They do everything is pen tooled. It's not just the elements. They actually do all of the shadows and the highlights in the car would also be picked up. So highlights, really spectral highlights of chrome bumpers, all of that gets pen tooled out. So they send these things again to one of those companies in India to actually do this, and they come back and they have hundreds of thousands of paths. And that's what people who do cars, that's how they actually work with that stuff. Everything, every single thing is done with a path. Again, it's incredibly important to them. So I'm just trying to stress how ultimately important it is for you as well. So I am going to try to pen tool this. I'm going to zoom into the lower left-hand side of her skirt. I'm going to hit the P key to get the pen tool. And then the problem that I run into is that I want to start this part of the path and the lower part of her skirt, but this is the same problem that we ran into when we were trying to do selections using the marquee tool last time. When I get the tool actually close enough to do this, it turns into the regular cursor. I actually go outside of my image. So in order to fix that, I need everyone to hit the F key. There's no modifier, just the F key. And when you hit the F key, you go to what is called the pasteboard. If you double click on the hand right now, you'll see this thing zips out and you've got this image. It's actually on a different field here. This is actually called the pasteboard. If you click on your image, you can move it around on this, but more importantly, I've got if you hit the P key, you can actually use your tools outside of this image. Now, it's not going to, if for instance, if you use a paintbrush out here, it's not going to put any paint on the pasteboard, but it will allow you to get to the very edge of this. The reason I do this is that I'm going to now zoom into this area down here. I want to attack this thing, but I don't want to, again, if I've got my cursor right here on this point, like here, it's really hard to see. So I'm actually going to start down on the pasteboard. You can put points onto the pasteboard. So I'm going to click to put a point onto the pasteboard right here, and then I'm going to come up here to click to set my first point right there. And then I'm going to work my way up. Now, in this case, it's really hard to see the blue because, again, this blue background is going on right here. So I'm going to change the color of my to, let's see, maybe magenta. That's just as hard to see. Green, a little bit easier to see. Red. Yeah, the light red is actually probably the easiest to see here, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, so I've got a question for everyone here. I'm going to try to run this up along the edge of this. But let's assume I can't be perfect. Should my path, if I have to make a mistake, should my path be inside the dress, inside the skirt, to lose some of the skirt? Or should it be outside in the field and keep some of the field? It's lose some of the skirt. If you lose some of the skirt, here, watch, I'll show you a quick version of this. I'm just gonna run a line up here like this, and then, yeah, this is gonna be my path right here. And I'm just gonna finish it. I'm gonna load that as a selection, and then I'm gonna use it as a layer mask on this image right here. And when you do that, again, I've lost part of this skirt, but do you know? There's no way to know. However, I'm going to throw this away. Again, I'm going to click down underneath this work path, so when I start it again, it'll create a brand new one. But this time, I'm going to actually keep part of the background. I'm going to load this as a selection and put it on as a layer mask. And you can spot that problem a mile away. So the real answer to this is you want your path to be perfectly on that line. But if you have to make an error, make it to where you lose part of what you should be keeping, but not introduce something that you definitely want to get rid of. Does that make sense, everyone? Did I lose anybody on that one? Okay. So the last thing I'm going to show you about this, and this is an important one, watch my screen when I do this. So I'm going to, the things that you need to remember about this, there are very few straight lines in the real world, very few. So even though this looks like a perfectly straight line for you, you should put some variation in it. Otherwise, your path work looks like it's just straight line segments that you've actually just tacked together. You don't want that to happen. So this is how I do it. Watch my screen and I will actually show you two tricks I'm going to show you here. So again, I'm going to start down here. I'll add onto the pasteboard. I'm going to click here to get my first path, and then I'm going to come up. You can be pretty healthy about this selection, but this is what you want to do. Even though you see that my line is right on the edge of that skirt, I do not want it to be a perfectly straight line. So I'm going to click, drag out, and put the slightest little bend in it. That's all I need to do. Now in my next point, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to get rid of this point. So I'm going to come back, hover over this, hold down my option key and click. I'm going to do the same thing as I work my way up here. I'm going to come up to this point, click, and put just the smallest amount of bend into it. Again, get rid of that point. This is the thing that screws everybody up. So remember, I told you, you actually need to stay with the outline first. When I get to the fingertip point here, if you continue up like this to do this little area of in her fingers, between her hand and her skirt, you will be trapped. You will come up here, you'll click, you'll come back around like this, come in, and then you crash into the path again. That will not work. So I'm going to go back in history where I didn't do that. Instead, what I want to do is get to the fingers and stay in the outline of the entire exterior of the path, and then come in and use this like we did the center of that donut. This becomes its own path later once I've done the complete outside. But watch how I deal with this part as well. So I'm going to come up to this area right in here. I'm going to click, and again, just a straight line. I want to start describing this space in between her fingers. And you can see there's a part of this image has got motion in it. Part of it is soft focus. That's okay. We'll deal with that in just a second. But I'm going to click here to pull out a line. And you remember I told you about the hills and the valleys? This is a valley that's sitting right here, or a hill, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm going to click a point right here. I'm going to come across to the other part, the highlight of her other finger. I'm going to click and drag a line out so that my path describes that curve. Because again, if you look at your fingers, these are curved spaces between your fingers. They don't come down to perfectly straight points like the top of the M was in Viacom. They don't do that. There's a curve in there. So you've got to put the curve in here. So I am going to put the curve in here. And then the next thing I want you to notice is that you, as long as your curve, as long as those control handles are moving along the same line, you do not need to get rid of the second point. Now I am going to get rid of this second point right here just to show you what I mean in a different spot. So I'm going to click on this to get rid of that. I'm going to click and drag out. So right here, I've got two handles. I've got a little bit of bend in this, but you can see this second handle right here is running right along the line that I want to be my curve. You do not need to go back and get rid of that second point. You can just continue the process. I'm going to go to my next point here. And then again, this point is on my valley right here. So I'm going to come over to the other side and click on this to describe the valley. Now, when I do that, this is not really a curve at the top. So this is not going to actually work for me here. So instead of moving points, trying to understand how to delete points, how to do all of that, simply go back in history and undo that. I'm going to then add another small point right here, and then I can come over the top and get my curve, and that is now correct. Again, I'm running along my line right here, so I don't need to get rid of that second point. I'll set a point here. I've got another curved space down here. I'm then going to click on my curve over here. When you get to like the thumbnail that's overlapping this, people would be tempted to cut that off. Including the thumbnail is what makes your pathwork look real. So I'm going to include the pathwork right now, but now you can see that my control handle is moving off of my path. So I cannot use that, just ignore it. I've got to look at, if I try to do my next curve out like this, there's no way that this path arc here is going to work. Command Z to undo it, hold down the Option key and get rid of that second point. And then you pick up again and you can just start. And then I just work my way continuing along this. When you get to this area right in here, this is a valley, make sure that you include that. This is a hill, make sure you include that. And then you're just off to the, again, this is now running right along that path line. So as long as the handle is on the path line, you do not need to get rid of it. You can just continue to work your way. It speeds things up considerably. I need everybody now to outline this side of this girl. And you need to stop, take a look at my screen really quick. When you get up to this part right here, when you get up to where the hair is on this side right here, I want you to stop right at that point, and we'll catch up. So run it all the way up the left-hand side. When you get to where the collar and the hair begin to touch each other, stop at that point if I'm not there. Oh, and when you need to move, just hold down your space bar. You will temporarily get the hand. You can move the hand, let go of it, and and your pen tool is still selected. Your path will still be selected. You'll still be working on it. It's just a way to navigate without you selecting another tool. By the way, I did go get a mouse. So I may be blowing through this faster than a lot of you. That, and I've done it 1,000 times. If you're having issues, let me know. Come by. So we're up here to the collar where it starts to crash into the hair. And that's why we want to stop here, because I can't use the pen tool to select anything over in here that'll actually help me out at all. The rest of this has got to be based on a completely different selection method. So I'm just going to put down the hand. I'm going to come over to the other side, and you can see on the other side, there's also another point on the collar where the hair actually intersects it again. I'm just going to come over. I'm going to do a straight line across her. Don't worry about the fact that I'm not doing any points in there. Just a straight line across there, and click and start the outside path of this part over here. I'm going to show you some tricks once I get to the far edge, but you can go ahead and start your pen work down here as well and just continue this whole path and what we were doing all along. Again, you're looking for the hills and valleys all the time. Okay, and then everybody look at my screen really quickly just so I can show you what I do once you get over to this edge. So I'm over to the edge right now where the arm actually goes out of the frame. So I'm still working in this area right in here. I'm not even going to try to hit this edge right here. I'm just going to come completely outside of my frame and click and draw a line out here to complete that final arc. Then once I'm out here onto the pasteboard, I'm simply going to circle around. I want a better attack angle on the bottom of this sleeve. I don't want to be coming at it from the top. I want to be coming at it from up from the bottom. So I'm just putting points out here. It does not matter where you put these, just so that you can get a better angle on this to then go ahead and do the arm that's actually on the bottom part of the sleeve. So then you guys can keep working on this. And then finally, again, I'm ahead of some of you. Finally, when we get down to the very part, this last part, just take a look at my screen really quickly. Everything else I just complete on the outside. So I just bring all of my points around and come back up till I complete the path right here. And then make sure, because you've done all of that work, you come over to your path and you double click on it and call it, in my case, I'm going to name it body, just to make sure that you save it. And then finally, if you've gotten this far with me, remember there's that little space between her hand and the skirt on the left-hand side. You need to pen tool that out as well. That's a path inside of a path. And at this point, I would also save your file. If we take a look at what that just did, so I'm going to go back into Photoshop. I'm going to go back to my layers palette. So what I want to do is effectively see what this looks like as a knockout, just to give you some idea of what the path is doing and sort of how sharp it really is, because we need to well, I need to show you. So I'm going to start by simply adding solid color layer above this. So I'm going to click on, I've just got my back of my layers palette. I've got my base layer selected. I'm going to click on this, add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to add a solid color layer to this. And I'm going to just put it on cyan. So to get cyan, 0 red, 255 green, 255 blue will give you a perfect silhouette on that. And you can actually see I've got a color now because I had a selection, I had a path that was active. It's actually made this in that shape. So throw your color fill away if you've done that. Go back to your path palette and make sure you click underneath it so that you do not have the path selected. You don't want to see this outline, so click underneath it and you won't. And now we can add the solid color layer again. So solid color. Again, it always picks up whatever the foreground color is. That's why this keeps reverting, in my case, back to black. So 255 for the green, 255 for the blue. Say okay to that. So now it actually is the solid color layer. So right now I've got a layer mask on this, and we're going to make a selection. And a lot of people get confused when you're making a selection if you've already got a layer mask on here. So the easiest way to get around this is just throw this layer mask away. So I'm going to grab the layer mask on the color fill layer and pitch it and just delete it. And then I'm going to come back to my path palette and I'm going to load this as a selection. So I'm going to hover over the thumbnail. I renamed mine body. I'm going to hover over the thumbnail, hold down the command key and click to load it as a selection. I'm going to go back to my layers palette, and on the color fill layer, I'm actually going to add this as a selection. Oh, I take it back. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Hit Command D to deselect. Let's go ahead and let's see what the figure looks like on this background. So let's make a copy of your smart object. So I'm going to go back down to my base layer to select it. I am going to do just Command J. Again, we're not reprocessing this file. It's still now 2 instances that are referring to one smart object, but that's fine. I'm not changing anything on here. So I'm going to now drag that up on top of my color fill layer. And then I'm going to go back to my path, hover over the thumbnail, command click to load it as a selection, come back into the layers palette and add that as a layer mask. So click on it to add it as a layer mask, and then zoom in and take a look at this. So if you come in and you take a look at this, in my opinion, the problem that I have with the pen tool is that it's too good. This image looks cut out to me. So I don't want this image to look cut out to me. So in the old days, you actually would feather the selection before you applied it. But now with this layer mask on here, you've actually got a feathering right here in the layer mask in the properties panel. So you can click on this feathering and you can drag it slightly forward. I'm going to pull mine up to like, let me just see what else is going on here. Yeah, like a 1.1.5, something like that. That seems to be enough feathering for me right there. So again, if you crank the feathering all the way down, you'll see that that edge sharpens up. So that actually may be a little too much. I think I'm going to do it a single pixel. Yeah, that feels right to me. Okay, so now I've got a soft version of this. The trick to this is that I have now got to combine this with a mask that's actually going to deal with her hair. So I need a selection of this that's been saved. Now, if you take a look at this, I've got my layer mask is actually on this layer. It is active, and so over here in my channels palette, it shows up. But again, it shows up with that name that's got a backslash at the end of it. This indicates that it's just showing me the layer mask. If you click underneath it onto the fill layer or onto the base layer, that goes away because we don't have that layer selected that actually has the mask on it. So I am going to select that again. I am going to click on this to make the my little border going around the layer mask, but I want to save this as a selection. Now, we could load this and save it, or you simply grab the layer, the version of the layer mask that is in channels, click on it and drag it down onto the little square with the plus in the middle. It will make a copy of it. Double click on that copy and we are going to call it Body Soft. And the reason I'm putting soft in there is to let me know that this is a feathered selection on here. And then I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. To make sure it is a feathered selection, go in and actually check the edge of this. And I'm not sure that that feels completely feathered. But I'm going to go to the one right above it, below it, and above it. That is not keeping the feathering. That is not going to work for us. The feathering that exists in there did not get transferred when we copied it this way, so we can't do it that way. Throw away that body soft that you just made. Go back into our layers at the very top. We are going to go back. I'm just going to do this old school way. Instead of using that feathering there at the top, I'm going to pull the feathering completely off. I'm actually going to throw this mask away because, again, I don't want to get too confused. I don't want some of the body masks that have been feathered, some that haven't been feathered, so I'm simply going to throw that mask away. I'm going to go back to my path palette right now. This is how we used to do it before they did feathering, before they added that. Hover over the thumbnail of the body, click to actually load it, and now we're going to feather it before we save it. So we've got the marching ants that are caused by the selection of the path tool. Come up to the select menu, down to modify, down to feather. Everybody look up at my screen right here. Again, I've loaded the selection of the path, but the edge of it is too sharp. I need to soften it up before I feather it. So I've got a selection going. You can't feather the mathematical path itself, but we can feather this selection. So again, up to the select menu, down to modify, down to feather, and then we're going to type in 1 pixel for the feathering and say okay. And then this is what I will save as my body mask. So up to the select menu, down to save selection, and call it body soft. I only put the soft in there to make a distinction, to let me know that that actually has been softened, that that is not just the selection of my path tool, of my pen tool. All right, has everybody got this far? Are we good? All right, another quick up to the file menu, down to save, just to keep your work saved. Command D to deselect. So now I actually need to go after the hair part. To get the hair part, I'm going to do exactly what you guys did, or what we did last week when we were looking for hair. I'm going to use a luminosity mask to actually do the hair. So I'm going to look at channels to see who gives me the best separation between her hair and the background. Now, again, I don't care about the body. I've already got that part selected. So do not look at these layers and think, well, what's separating the body the best from the background? I don't care about that. It's just the hair and part of her profile. That's the only thing I care about in this. So I'm going to click on the red channel. And remember, we are looking for contrast. So in the red channel, the hair is really blown out and white, but the background that's behind her here is a light sort of, it's a little bit lighter than middle gray. When I go to the green, the hair still stays white. Again, I pick up more texture in the center part of the hair. I don't care about that. I only care about the edge in relationship to the background. So the green is better because the background definitely got darker. Again, some of the hair got darker, but none of the edge. All the stuff that's on the edge of this hair is still just as white as it was in the R channel, in the red channel. I'm going to click on the blue one now as well. And in the blue one, I start to pick up a lot of tone in the hair that's on the edge, which is not helping me. And also my background just got a little bit lighter. So the green channel is the one that I'm going to use to do this work. So go ahead and grab the green channel, drag it down to the little square at the bottom of your channels palette. It will make a thing called green copy. I'm going to double click on the word green copy, and I'm going to call this temporary head, or temp head, or temp hair. Any of those would work, just so that you know what the heck it is you're doing with this thing. So I'm going to then zoom in onto my temp hair. And again, just like we did before, I'm going to put down color readout points on here to actually see how far I need to move this, how aggressive I need to move this part to actually get the separation to build my mask. So up to the eyedropper tool, down to the color sampler tool, And then in the color sampler for her hair, I'm just looking at the outside of the hair. All of this stuff in here is going to be fine for me. Again, I'm not worried about the part that's on the inside. So I'm going to drop a point like in that, if you take a look at my screen, all of these strands of hair that look like they're shooting straight almost up, there's a point right down here that's pretty solid. I'm going to click on that as my sample point for the hair. You can see in my readout I'm getting 0, so I know it's already white. Again, this is in K right now, black ink. There's 0 black ink, which is pure white. And then I'm going to come out here onto my screen. Now, on the background, if you pick the darker area of the windows and you get them to go black, these lighter areas of the background right here will not have gotten to black. So I'm not going to pick this area in the darker part of the window. I'm going to just pick this back wall that's sort of behind it, close to that swirl of hair right there. I'm just going to set a point right there. Again, make sure that your sample size is 3x3 average. Now we have 2 control points that are sitting down here on the bottom. I need to change these to RGB readouts. Same process we went through all last week. Same process you probably did for some of the stuff you did with the assignment. I'm going to click on this number 1, click on the dropout and bring it down and say I want this to be an RGB color readout. And I'm going to do the same thing for my point number 2. I want this to be an RGB readout. And now I know what my goal is that the white is my first point, whatever, is already at 255. I don't need to do any adjustment there at all. But on the number 2 point, this background wall back here, it's reading 60s. You should be close to that. Doesn't have to be exact, but close. I just need those 60s to go down to 0. So again, Command L will bring up your levels dialog dialog box. I'm going to grab the black point slider at the bottom of my histogram and start to drag towards the middle. I'm watching this secondary readout on that point number 2 the whole time. Right now I'm at 37, but as I continue to move towards the middle, I'm going to get close to 0. I'm at a 2 right now. I'm going to stop at that 2 and go to my arrow keys. So tapping my arrow keys, I tapped the down one. It was in the wrong direction. So I just tapping the up one. I don't even try to remember which ones. I just know what I need to get to 0. I'm at 0 right now, but before you do anything, check your white point to make sure that it didn't creep in, that it didn't actually drop, that it's still at 255. Mine is. I'm going to zip around and take a look at this. I'm just holding down the space bar. I do have some problems like this pointy thing that's right at the very top of her head. That's going to be an issue that I got to deal with. But everything else in here is looking pretty good or pretty easy to control for me. So I'm going to use the preview button. Again, you should just turn this on and off to see if you're keeping the feeling of the hair. And I am. I'm beginning to, everybody look at my screen here really quickly. I'm beginning to lose part of this thing right in here, but I could lose that whole strand of hair. This whole strand of hair I could lose and no one would ever know the difference. So again, when I turn this on and off, I don't need to keep that part that's running through here. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. At this point, I would go to your tablet, unless those of you who've got a tablet the size of Montana don't want to bother with yours right now. I totally get that. If somebody who's got one of those giant tablets could actually shoot me an email right now. We don't use these giant ass we don't use tablets every single class, so I will go through the syllabus and tell you what class you need to bring it, so you are not hauling that thing down here for any day that you don't need to do it. So if somebody could please shoot me that email, I will get back to you tonight. So yeah. So at any rate, I am going to go to my tablet right now. I am still working on my temporary head channel down here. I'm going to hit the B key to get a brush. I'm going to change the blending mode of my brush to overlay. Sorry, not soft light, overlay. And then I'm looking at this stuff right in here. I want some pretty serious control on this. I don't want this brush to be spraying all around stuff. I want a little bit more control than that. So I'm going to make it a completely hard brush. I'm also going to make it, again, an overlay blending mode, 100% opacity, 100% flow, and just click somewhere that will allow you to get rid of that menu without making a mark on it. So I'm not going to start in this little area right in here. Well, actually, I think I am going to start in this area right in here. No, I take it back. I'm going to do something to buy myself some room. I'm going to start in the area that's kind of at the very crown of her head, and I'm just going to click in this area to get rid of that. It looks like it's the window frame that's in the back. You don't need to do too much work out of all of this. I do want to buy a little bit of room around all of this, but you don't need to go wild on this. So I'm just going to clean up. There's some area on the very top of her head. I want to buy a little bit more room in there. And then I'm at the point where I need to go to a softer brush. So I'm going to click on my drop down menu to go to a softer brush. I'm going to bring it down to about a 50% hardness, and then watch what I do here really quickly. I'm going to try to go after this area that's got this one hair, this one strand that's right in here. Now, if you actually come up close to this and click and run yourself along the line, you can do a pretty good job of maintaining all of that. But the truth be told, if I cut the whole thing off, nobody's going to know. So you don't have to be all that perfect about this. Nobody will know that part. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just clicking now and dragging away. I'm trying not to paint along a line. When you try to paint lines is usually when you run into problems because we're not painters, we're photographers. I am going to go after this point on the very top of her head right now. So it's this... I don't know what the hell it is behind her, but it's a really bright point right at the very top at the back of her head. So I'm going to go after this part, but what I realize is that I've got a lot of loose hair that's around this. I don't actually need to keep any of this fine hair in here if I don't want to. No one will ever know the difference. So I'm going to start down here. I'm going to click, and I'm going to just run my way up in here, and I'm going to pull down into here, and then I'm going to run down in here, lift my cursor off of the tablet so then I can go in and hit it a second time. And if I start to lose hair in there, I don't really care. What I can't do is this. So look at my screen right now. You can see I've got what they're called, or these are orphaned pieces of hair. These are just floating in space right now. That will never work. That will be the giveaway that you've done what you've done. So change your blending mode of your brush back to normal. Change the hardness back to 100% hard, and then you are going to get rid of those little parts there that don't make sense. Like these little ones that are on the end. None of that makes sense. I still do have enough going on in here that nobody's ever going to know that I actually did that part. I'm going to change my brush back to overlay now, back to a soft brush, at least a 50%, 40%, something like that. I'm going to clean out a little bit of the hair that was the background that was right there. And then I've got another spot over in here that's got some of that going on in it as well. So I'm at the back of the hair near where we put down our first point. I'm going to click in this area right in here to get rid of that, make my brush a little smaller. I was actually able to keep that one hair in there. And then I'm not going to go after the rest of this. I'm going to leave that just as it is. However, now I'm going to hit the X key to go to white as my foreground color. In this case, again, you want to make sure that you have a completely hard brush because we're going to clean up the inside of her head right now. So most of this, I've got a solid white line that's running against this. I can do a little overlay work in there if I want to, but stay away from all the loose hairs that are on the outside. Those do not need to be pure white. If they are, your knockout will look artificial. Those have actually got some tone in it, which we want to keep because that gives us the transparency of the hair. But the rest of it, in the inside that I know needs to be completely white in my mask right here, I can just start to work in here to actually pull down through all of this. Again, be very careful. You want to stay close to that edge, but you do not want to hit that edge. And I'm just going to continue to give myself a little wiggle room in there. I'm not going to try to fill this whole thing in. I am going to come back down to the lower part down here and do the same thing. I'm going to go over to the other side now. The top of her head's fine. I've got all that. The bangs that are coming around the front, I want to make sure I get those. And I'm feeling like now this line is too hard. I feel like if I stay away from that edge, I can spray a little bit out there. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo this and drop my hardness down to 50% or something close to that. And then again, I'm going to do the same thing again. Yeah, that's a little bit better feed in there. Again, you don't want to completely hit all of those things that are on the very edge. Her nose, you actually do want to hit all of that. That should all be gone. And then her upper lip, again, just hit that repeatedly with your overlay brush and you will get it. And then the small area where it's running into her chin right in there. I don't need anything else more than that. Back to a normal brush. Make sure it's a completely hard brush. And then I can do all sorts of work in here that needs to be cleaned up. Those little bits that need to be cleaned up. Don't worry about the collar right here. You've already got that collar right here is already in your path. So again, these areas that are right in here, I can actually buy myself a little bit more room. The whole mask is actually, the whole head is gonna go white. So I can zip back out now and take a look at my screen here. So you can see that I've actually got a large part of I've got a really good edge that's going around mine. So you can paint in the center part if you want to do that. For me, I like to be faster, so I'm going to hit the L key to get the lasso tool, and I'm simply going to drag I'm staying on the inside of the area that I just created. And I'm going to come back to the top. And this whole area right now just needs to be filled with white. White is my foreground color, so Option Delete will actually fill that with white. Command D to deselect. So I may need to add a little bit more of this to when I put the two together with my body and the hair part. I may need a little bit more of this, but I've got everything that I really need now as far as the hair edge part goes. So I'm going to zip out a little bit more and make sure that I'm not lying. Yep, I've got some dark all the way around it. I'm not worried about the part up further away. This is just for the hair part right here. So what I have now is I've got this temp head that's actually got the head in it. If I click on the body, I've got the body part that's here. I need to put the two together. How would you do that? So here's the trick. If we make a selection of anything and you paint, isn't the selection control where you paint and where you don't paint? Isn't that what's happening? So that's what I'm going to do. I want you to select the body soft. So in the channels palette, make sure body soft is selected. Hover over the thumbnail of the temp head. Do not select the temp head channel. Just hover over the thumbnail of it. Hold down the command key and click, and you will see you get the marching ants. But we are going to add this to the body soft stuff. So I've got the marching ants are here. They can control where I can paint and where I cannot paint. So I'm going to hit the B key to get the brush tool. I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger. In this case, it doesn't matter whether your brush is hard or soft. It doesn't matter because the selection is going to control where you can paint and where you cannot paint. So I'm going to just leave mine as 100% hard, a normal blending mode on it. You also want 100% opacity, 100% flow, and then I'm going to zoom in on this just so that you can see what's basically going on here. I've got a relatively big brush. I need everybody to look at my screen because this is a problem that people actually make. This is a mistake that people will make. I'm going to temporarily hide the marching ants, but they will be there. They're still active. If you hit Command H, you don't see them, but they are still there. So now I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to start to paint, and you can see that that where I'm painting is being controlled by the selection that I actually have going. However, watch this. Watch what happens here. If I lift my stylus off of my tablet, you see this area that's right in here that's actually got, so I'm talking about this area right in here. This area that's right in here has actually got some gray to it. If I actually use my overlay brush and I hit that a second time, you'll see it makes it lighter. So you do not want to hit this repeatedly. That works for us really well when we're actually trying to do take areas completely out of the mask, but it kills us here. We're trying to keep that transparency. So instead, what you do is, I'm going to go back in time in my history to where I loaded the selection. I'm going to hit Command H again so that you guys can see where the marching ants are. I'm going to zoom back out. What you want to do is you want to do this entire edge of her head in one stroke of your brush. So I'm going to start over here on this side and I'm just running through all of this, but do not pick your cursor up. Do not come off and drop back down, or you start to add density where you don't want it. And I'm just going to go ahead and complete this like this. Then this tool has actually done its job. I can hit Command D to deselect. I just need to clean up the rest of the mask. So I'm just going to paint here in the interior. I'm going to deal with what's over here on the very edge in just a second. I'm going to zoom into the part that I missed over here in the edge, and you can actually see with a hard brush, this is already connected to the jacket part. So all I need to do is hit this, and I've got this completed. I feel like that there's a little that I probably need to use the overlay brush a little bit. I've got the corner of my it's the corner of her jacket is not quite in there. So I'm going to again change this back to an overlay brush. I'm going to make my brush much smaller. White is my foreground color, and I'm just going to take that part out, which is the only thing I really needed to do. I'm going to double click on the hand, and then I'm going to save my work. Up to the file menu, down to save. So does everybody have a completed outline of this figure? Body and hair. Where did you get lost?
When I tried to do the brush and the outline, it wouldn't fill in anything.
Probably because you're still in overlay. Change it back to normal. You can just do it right now. It's all the way at the top. Good, and just paint over that thing huge, big. Yeah, just go all over it. You don't need to hold down your mouse or anything. It'll just, you're good.
So it was just missing the mode. We
Yeah.
can just miss that
So
stuff.
that's all right. And then go ahead and clean up just the very end of it. Hit Command D to deselect, go in there, make sure your brush is completely hard. Did everybody else get this? No.
Which one lost from this point on? The lasso tool?
Okay, so now you've got this selected, which is perfect. You just need to fill that with white. So again, white is your foreground color. So if you hold down the Option key and hit Delete, it will fill it. And you're done. You don't have to paint it all in. Right? And so that's working great. So Command D to deselect. And then you're going to go up to your body soft and select it. Hover over the thumbnail. Hold down your Command key to click to load it as a selection. And then you're going to grab a brush, the B key, and you're going to change it back to normal. All the way up. Great. And make sure it's a hard brush. And a big brush. Really big. Good. That's fine. That's fine. And then just one giant stroke around there. Perfect. And then Command D to deselect. You got a little cleaning up to do. This area right in here you need to clean up. So again, really hard brush. Zoom in this area, you'll see you still got the edge. You still got a white edge in there. So you just need to clean that part up. Yeah. And then clean all that up. Yeah. And then go to the other side. There's some shit over here. This is more overlay brush work. Yeah, we do that with an overlay brush. So, but yeah. How about everybody else? Are we good? See? No? Okay. So now let's see what we can actually do with this thing now that we've actually made it all. So, again, I would save your work at this point. I'm going to come back. The temporary head that we actually did selected here, you don't need this anymore, so simply throw it away. Again, this is housekeeping 101 because this shit can get really confusing if we keep doing this long enough. I'm going to come back over to my layers palette. I am going to throw away my color fill. I'm actually going to throw away the layer that's on the top of it. We're going to do some other stuff with selections here. And the reason, again, I stress building selections so much, that's what we're going to actually do here. So I do have my body soft is actually the channel that's sitting right there. I'm not going to select it. If you select the channel, then you get the channel and you can work on the channel. That's not what we want to do. We actually want to now modify our image. Again, what I'm looking for as a fashion shooter, I want separation. I want the clothes to really stand out. I want to suppress the background. I do want a sense of that there's that this is on the street. I do want those sort of sensations, right? But I just don't want it competing. And right now I feel like it is competing. So it's all the strategies that you can come up with to actually get it to separate that we're going to try to employ right now. So I'm going to hover over the thumbnail of my body soft, hold down the Command key and click, and it will load it as a selection. So this is now the entire selection that I've made of this. I'm going to come over to my adjustment layers and I'm going to click on that. And the first one I'm going to do is a black and white adjustment. And if you click on that, what you end up seeing is that because it's selected the body and I put the layer mask on, this is a black and white adjustment layer. And if you look at the mask, it's allowing the body itself to go black and white, where the background that's behind it, whatever, remains in color. I want just the opposite. So hit Command I to invert your mask. And now I've actually got this girl on a black and white background. It's still a sense of time, a sense of space, but it's completely different in terms of her separating off of this. For me, it's not enough. So what I also want to do is I want to darken this thing up. Now there's different strategies that you can use to darken them up. I'm going to show them both to you right now. Please do both of these. It's just a quick way to start modifying your image after the fact. So the first way that you can actually use to darken this up is to simply add a curve on this. So I'm going to click on the adjustment layer. I'm going to add a curve. So come up and just click on Add Curve. And with this curve now, you could grab the middle point. You all know that how this thing works. You can click on this middle point and pull it down to make the background darker. But what's happening is that it's also making the figure darker. And not only is it making it darker, but again, we're into that trouble area now where it's not only making this darker, but because this is an RGB image, making it darker is also impacting the color and the saturation. Look at how much more saturated her skin is, how much more saturated that leather coat is than it was before. So I don't want this impacting the background. I want it simply to impact, I want it to impact the background, not the girl. To do that, if you hover, come over to your layers palette, and if you hover between the curve that's actually doing this and the layer that's underneath it, the black and white layer underneath it, you want to put your cursor right where those two layers touch, and then hold down your Option key. When you do that, your cursor is going to change into a little square with an arrow that points straight down. If you look up at the top in your layers panel, that same little icon is sitting right at the bottom of your layers panel as well. I'm going to do this more using the keyboard shortcuts for this because it's just faster, and occasionally you don't see the bottom of your properties panel, so this is just a way to be able to control this. So hold down the Option key, you get that weird little icon, click. And what you'll see has happened is that whole curves has now pushed over to the right, and you have a small little arrow that is pointing down. What that is saying is this is called a clipping group. So what we have just done is we have clipped this curve to the layer that is underneath it, and the layer that's underneath it has a mask on it. So that mask is now controlling where we see this curve and where we don't. So this mask is preventing this curve from impacting the figure. So now if you drag the curve up and down, you'll see it doesn't impact the girl at all. So now we can actually really drag this down and turn this into something completely different. So now I'm really super separating this girl from the background. And then I want you to come in and take a look at the edge of what you've just done. And you tell me that this is not the absolute most beautiful, perfect outline of this coat and this girl on this background. You don't have any of those problems in the background in terms of separating it. All of the stuff in her hair, all of this kind of stuff is perfectly done, blah, 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 blah. Right now, your inner self should be jumping up and down for joy because this lets you do the impossible. Questions? Did this work for everyone? Does this make you think about your editing and the things that you can do in your editing, the changes that you can make in your editing, right? So we're going to do one more thing here really quickly because in this case, we're only impacting the background. I want to actually impact the girl now. So I'm going to come back over to my channels palette. I'm going to hover over the body soft, hold down the command key, click to load it as a selection. I'm going to come back over to my layers palette, and this time we're actually going to add a hue saturation layer to this. So I'm going to click on the icon that's half circle, half black and white. I'm going to come up and I'm going to add a hue saturation layer to this. You'll now have a hue saturation layer that has a layer mask already on it, so it's only going to control the girl. If I want to, then a lot of you have gotten into like modifying. You actually start to strip color out of especially skin tones, that kind of thing. We can drop the saturation down in this a little bit. That'll actually change things. If you want to see the impact that you've made now, you use the eyeball next to the hue saturation layer to turn this on and off. And you can see, yeah, I'm sucking a little bit of that tone out. You can actually restrict where that tone is. We'll talk about strategies for doing that whole part later. But you can also shift the color in this. You can actually make her green. You can make her redder. You can do, not that I really think anybody wants to do that, but I'm just saying those options exist, and it keeps it separate from the background. I'm not impacting my background at all. So this just gives me this incredible flexibility to do different things to different parts of my image right now. Are we good on this part? Questions about this part? All right, that is going to be it for today. Really quickly, let me show you what's going to be for the homework. So in the assignments for the homework, you've actually got Coca-Cola path. It's right here. You're going to open that up and you're going to outline that using the pen tool. Then you've got another file in here that is a girl standing on a background. You are to outline the entire girl using the pen tool, probably do her hair the same way we just did this one, but I want the body and actually all the little strings and all that kind of stuff done using the pen tool. And then you are going to put that on this metal background. So this is going to be our first composite. This girl is going to end up being knocked out and land on this metal background. Questions? Are we good? Yes.
What are we doing with the Coke pad? Just outline it?
You're just outlining the, yeah, just like we did with the Viacom. It's considerably curvier. And then again, homework, just let me reiterate one more time. So when you actually do drop your homework, make sure that the drop box that you pick is Dropbox Retouch 01. You guys are 01. You're the best. You're the number one. And also inside that, make sure that you do not stick it in any folder that I've already named week 3 turn in, week 4 turn in, week 2 turn in. Just do whatever this is. I do have 2 folders in here that are untitled right now, and I don't know what those are because those aren't mine. So if you've actually added an empty folder and you think you've done your added something, you haven't. This is what I've got in here. So if you think you put something up in the homework pile and it's not, you may have stuck up one of these empty folders. You need to go ahead and resubmit your homework to make sure. So if you don't see your name in here and you think you've submitted, try again. And I'll see you guys next week.